Hey, what's up? I just want to let you know I'm waiting to be brought into this panel, so I'm going to put my intro up here for a second, and I'll be right back. Sorry, it's a little bad form, but I thought they were bringing me in now, so give me a second. All right, here's what we're going to do. I don't know when she's going to bring me in, so I'm trying to listen because I don't want to screw up her show. Can you all hear me? I hope so. Uh, Thank you, Robert Whaley, for not only the $20, says, I won 1,500 bucks today. Please accept my gift. Thank you so much. I thoroughly appreciate it. And congrats on your win, man. I'll take my portion of that. Thank you. Uh, Corey Barton, thanks so much for $2. Says Andrew's doing a fantastic job. I agree. This is one of the worst dog walkings I've ever seen. He did a great job. Happy I could be part of it. Robert Whaley, thank you again for gifting 10 memberships. Thank you so much. So it's weird when you do these sorts of things because they're going to bring me on the panel. They're having an open panel, but I don't know when I'm going to come on. So it's hard for me to set up the time to stream because I don't want to start streaming with no context and come into my audience when you'll have no idea whatsoever when I'm coming in, while simultaneously, I want to make sure. In fact, maybe I could do this. There we go. There we go. While simultaneously, I want to make sure that I'm actually talking to you all and don't want to be disrespectful of them. So it's weird. I've done this before where she said, "Hey, we're about to bring people in," and I was like, "Oh, okay." But now I think they're going to read super chats, so there could be 20 minutes of super chats for all I know. So thank you so much, Bandit, for gifting 5 memberships. I really appreciate it, man. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much. So to give you a little idea of what their debate was, first off, can you all hear me? I did not see Erudite Debate J. I did not see that. Right. But I did watch this Andrew Wilson debate. So he's debating this guy, Misfit Patriot. And it was on the woke right. And Andrew was taking the position the woke right doesn't exist. Misfit Patriot is saying that it does exist. And I think I had this pegged going into this debate that basically it's just Misfit Patriots had some like bad interactions with groypers. And so that's the axe that he has to grind. That hardly justifies using the term woke right as it's being used. And I think Andrew just did a tremendous job of dog walking him. Once more, what this debate basically comes down to is a definition being so broad that it encompasses everyone, including the very person using that definition to criticize. So in this debate, Andrew's not only able to prove that based on the definition of woke right that Misfit Patriot is given, that the founding fathers were all woke, but that Misfit Patriot himself is woke based on that definition. And it makes it damning because then the only other concession you need is the reason to employ the term woke right is to be derogatory because you want to damage those groups of people. If you admit that basically everyone falls into this category and we're only using this particular term against these particular people because we want to be derogatory towards them, then it kind of shows that it's sort of not a good faith interpretation of what that term would mean. And that's exactly what James Lindsay's doing. I don't know Misfit Patriot as well, but what Lindsay's doing is he has joined a coalition of people that he saw as the biggest institutional threat at the time, which was sort of the woke on the left, the cultural Marxists that had institutional power in everything from our culture, in the entertainment industry, our media, academia industry, and our political industry. And so he saw them as the imminent threat. And so he aligned himself with all sorts of groups, whether it be Christian nationalists, whether it be trad people, whether it be red pill people, whether it be traditional conservatives, neoconservatives, fiscal conservatives, populist, etc. Right? And so Lindsay jumps in with that crew in order to like sort of be someone that's like, oh yeah, I'm with you. Let's beat the woke. But then once he sees that victory is imminent, what he wants to do is then prevent the next set of enemies that he sees. Now, Lindsay's sort of this centrist or liberal type person, so he doesn't want like real conservatives. And so what he wants to do is then label them as, you're woke. One of the issues this comes up the most in is when it comes to discussions of Israel. And so oftentimes what you see is any criticism whatsoever of Israel, like maybe a criticism I give that's like, yeah, I think Israel has a little too much influence in our country and I think we send them too much money, etc., etc. That gets labeled as woke. And we're told, no, you can't discuss that. You even see people like Douglas Murray, who goes on Joe Rogan and says like, these are dangerous discussions. Only experts could talk about it. And that in its heart is what this labeling of woke with the woke right is really about. It's about keeping the establishment narrative in institutional control. What they don't want is someone that they consider dissident to be able to come into power. Now, what does that mean? Yeah, sure, people that might be flamboyant racist get deemed as woke right. So you might say, I hate all Jewish people because they're Jewish. That might be something that you would say. But that gets lumped in with someone in this debate that we just saw, for example. It gets lumped in with people that are like, I'm pro-life to where I think there should be 0 abortions. Or I think the country was better off before we intervened in World War II. I think the culture was better at that point. All these sorts of questions get lumped in with woke right. And that's because the term has nothing to do with being an accurate descriptive term. It is designed to be derogatory. And the reason that Lindsay and others chose this term specifically is because they know people on the right, much like being called soy, by being called woke, this would be something that would be humiliating to them. And it also gives the left a target to be able to say, see, the term woke isn't that bad or derogatory towards us because it also applies to people on the right. And so by using woke right to describe such as the groypers, as opposed to saying like racial identitarians or reactionaries, which is the term Andrew Wilson says, what ends up happening is you end up using a tool that becomes beneficial to the very woke group that you claim to be fighting in the first place. It's a tool that's arbitrarily applied because it'll apply to even the founding fathers and to basically anyone. And it's one that's being used for purely derogatory reasons because you're in a power battle on different factions on the right. That's in general what I think about this, and I think that Andrew did a fantastic job being able to articulate that. I really do. And so, in this debate, particular, as we'll get to afterwards, I think that it was one of the biggest dog walkings I've ever seen. I legitimately think that Misfit Patriot was out of his depth from the get go. So much so that he starts off in his opening statement brashly claiming that he will prove that Andrew Wilson is, quote, woke adjacent. And by the end of the debate, he's saying things like, well, yes, it obviously could be over applied, and we don't want to do that, and we want to be careful, and clearly you're not woke. It's the irony is by adapting the term woke right, the implication that they're making is the people we call woke right are acting like the people on the left. But in reality, it's exactly what they're doing. By labeling you woke, they're trying to get you basically shamed and silenced by being out of good favor to be able to have these conversations. And they're saying things like Douglas Murray saying, oh, these people shouldn't be in these spaces like on Joe Rogan, it's bad, et cetera, et cetera. Therefore, using the very sort of cancellation topic, trending like ideas that they claim you yourself are using. So it was definitely a good debate. And I think Andrew did fantastic. I have some questions that I wrote down that I can't wait to ask Misfit Patriot if I get my opportunity to do that. So we'll see how long it takes to come in. So meanwhile, it's tough for me to talk to you all while I have them in my ear. So I think they're going through super chats right now. But as we wait for this, how are you all doing this fine day? I hope you're doing good. It was a good day for me, a good Mother's Day. I did not get to see my mom, though I did talk to her on the phone, but I did hang out with... Let me... Wait, I might be getting brought on here. 1 second. It was a good Mother's Day. All right, I'm not being brought in yet. So yeah, it was a fantastic Mother's Day. I hope you all had a great Mother's Day too. If your mother's no longer around, I hope that you thought of her. I'm fortunate that I have my mom who's still alive, who's wonderful. I have my mother-in-law who is fantastic, and then I have sort of through marriage a mother-in-law. All three mother-in-laws are great, and then of course, yes, thank you, Robert. The mother in my life, my son's mother, Courtney. I hope she had a great Mother's Day. She did accidentally get her ankle cut open by a wild hose, one of those like pocket hoses that extend. My son Hank was yanking on it and it snapped back and hit her in the ankle. So let's get some super chats while we're waiting. Bandit again, thank you for the 5 memberships. I really appreciate it, man. AKA Aim Pro, thank you so much. Says Misfit fumbled the entire debate halfway through. Yeah, he did not do well, as we'll get to. Corey Barton, always great to hear you for $2. Thank you so much. He says he uses the term the way the left uses neo-Nazi. Agreed. And then Lecture Fan, twice in a row. My good friend Lecture Fan, how's it going, man? $4. Thank you so much. I always appreciate it, Lecture Fan. I don't know if you heard the news. I'm going to be streaming basically full time now, Lecture Fan. So we'll be looking forward to streaming more and hopefully getting in touch with you. Maybe we could do some more collaborations together. My work's been so crazy. I haven't really collaborated with anyone in a long while. So, but yeah, I think that ultimately one of the strategies too, I see this occur a lot with me as well. Thank you, Lecture. I appreciate it. One of the things that he was trying to do, he sort of attempts to poison the well from the get-go by being basically like, well, Andrew's a good debater and he uses debate tactics. This is something that's done to me all the time as well. And for example, I had Fatty, that person I debated, I'm not being insulting, that's what he calls himself, a few weeks ago. He kept saying, well, it's just a debate bro tactic to be logically consistent. And like Misfit keeps saying to Andrew through this debate, he keeps saying things like, oh, well, you're just like reducing my definition down to sort of the fundamental meaning of it. Well, yeah. So for example, when he goes through Andrew goes through the 4 points of Misfit's definition of what woke is, and he's like, okay, point 1, do the founding fathers meet? Yeah. Point 2, yeah. Point 3, yeah. Point 4, yeah. And then Andrew's like, okay, then by your definition, George Washington, the rest of the founding fathers were woke. And he's like, well, no, because the word wasn't around back then. But you understand the silliness of that. And he's like, you're just being reductive. You're just being reductive. But if the definition is only to, if we're like, yeah, even the founding fathers were woke, we're just choosing not to call them that, then the word, particularly as a pejorative, means nothing, right? Because like, if everyone's woke and you just say, well, we're going to say it's a negative, but we'll only point to the people that we want to distance ourselves from, then the word means nothing. Because then I could call Misfit woke. I could call neocons woke. I could call Lindsey Graham woke. I could call Dan Crenshaw woke. Or a bunch of other Republicans. Tom Tillis is woke. Whoever, right? Everybody could just call anyone woke. And again, it gets back to the central point of what is the utility of using this word if there's already better descriptive words? If you're upset about the identitarian right or the race realist right, fine, call that out by name. I don't like the right wing that is hyper-focused on race, the race realist, the racial agenda, the white supremacists. Fine, but why are you calling them woke? The reason you're calling them woke is because you know that it's a humiliating term for them, and it's actually giving ammunition to the very left that people like Misfit, who's claiming to be this big Trump supporter, is trying to fight. In addition, there's so many other things that he does in this debate that are just so questioning of each of the little tenets. For example, the idea of people that feel that they've been victimized. That's one of the tenets, the people that constantly focus on their victimhood. And yet Misfit starts off his opening statements talking in all the ways the Groypers have victimized him. He also claims to be a big MAGA supporter, which I have no doubt that he is. But isn't a lot of what drove people to vote for Donald Trump not only that he was a victim of an assassination attempt, but more importantly, that he was a victim of a swamp that spent 4 years during his first term attacking him and then used lawfare for the 4 years that he was out to further try to ruin his life and prevent him from running? I think there is a just anger at these institutions for attacking Donald Trump and his supporters. So the idea that that's somehow pejorative, like, oh, you have this victimhood mindset. Well, right, because we were victimized by the lawfare of these institutions. Take this to another conclusion. Like, if I get demonetized, shadow banned, etc., because the Twitter files show that, all sorts of government agencies or non-governmental organizations were pressuring social media to censor people like me, is me bringing that up and having anger at that victimhood? If I talk about how I lost a job or I lost a small business because of lockdowns during the pandemic, is that me embracing the idea of victimhood? So again, these sort of criteria, like when we say woke, we're talking about something hyper-specific when it came to instances of the left. We were talking about, like, there were two things. Yes, it had to do with cultural Marxism and sort of this intersectional belief that victimhood is the greatest thing to achieve. But beyond that, there were two other functions of it. One was that there was an absurdity to it. And so when we're talking about woke, we're talking about things like the rewriting of history, switching historical figures with race swapping, or trying to force people to believe that biological men could be women, etc. That's what we're talking about woke, where there's this sort of idea of the absurdist to it that had to do with this intersectional victimhood and mentality. The other part of it was the prolific nature of it and the institutional power that went into it. So, for example, we had almost everyone in culture that was pushing so much of the woke, such as the trans agenda. You could get censored on social media. It was taught in academic circles. You could lose your job if you didn't use the correct pronouns at work. Academia inundated almost entirely at the top Ivy League levels and much throughout all of academia with far left people that were pushing this, far outnumbering the right wing. All of our institutions, our political institutions, media institutions, entertainment industry, it was a massive amount of power. And that's what we said. Woke became a pejorative because it was like, these people think they're awoke. They think that they're morally superior to everyone else. But it's really just a cult that's using authoritarian institutions to force their beliefs on the rest of us because we wouldn't believe it. Even if you don't like a lot of what things like the Groypers say, right? The point is, they don't have any of the absurdism that you would see with that, like trying to tell you that biological men could be women, etc., not trying to rewrite historical figures as like race swapping, things like that. There may be disagreements on what happened with history, but not to that level of absurdity. And they certainly have all but no institutional power. Andrew says that the term he would use to describe them would be reactionaries. I would say that there could be more to get more specific. I don't like, for example, racialists. Okay, fine, great. But the problem is the way that this term is used by people like James Lindsay is ever expanding to basically just include people on the right that think that they've been victimized by something. So here's potential things that could make you a member of the woke right. If you think that illegal immigration was hurting the citizens of this country, that's woke. In this debate, Misfit said the woke right is the right that is against any abortion. Now think about that. So here's this term, and that's one of the ideas, in addition to the idea of using woke to symbolize sort of this connection to the left, which ends up helping the left and is meant to humiliate the right. The other thing that does is it allows you to group in large swaths of anyone you disagree with as a member of that woke right. So now it's not just the groypers. Now it's also Christian nationalists. Now it's also abortion absolutists. Now it's also people that care about the border. But of course, Misfit, the groups that he agrees with, such as, well, actually, I'm for border security, he would say that sort of identity politics and sort of grievance culture, that's okay. That's okay. So it was a masterclass though from Andrew, because he wasn't very rude or anything. Misfit's opening statement was quite pointed and designed to be sort of rude, directed towards Andrew. And Andrew just went point by point and sort of instructed Misfit on where he was wrong. I don't agree with 100% of everything that Andrew said or the strategy that Andrew employed, but it was very masterful, and it's hard to nitpick and play Monday morning quarterback when it was so effective. If you watch the debate, one of the things stylistically that you'll realize is it is obvious that Misfit knows he's outclassed from sort of the tone and how he's talking. And he's constantly like, well, okay, yeah, I see your point, but, and it's almost like watching someone who's like a coach or a teacher talking to someone that's trying to learn. The problem is that this was in the middle of a debate. And why are you trying to learn this term when you've already employed it against so many people on social media? So it was interesting. I really enjoyed the debate. Now, I know there were other debates going on tonight. I know Jay Dyer debated Not So Erudite. I think that Jim Bob was also supposed to be debating her, not dating. I think Jim Bob's happily married. So it'll be interesting to go through some of those debates. Tomorrow, I think Andrew Wilson's going to be debating Pearl Davis on basically the idea of whether or not men in the West should get married. Yes, they should. I understand Pearl's position that marriage seems like a bad deal for men because, half their stuff gets put away, and the dating community the way it is that you could just try to go out and hook up with chicks, but marriage is still best, right? You should overcome your more carnal feelings, settle down with a woman that you love, have that relationship in a way where you actually have mutual respect for each other, and have children after you get married. That's what you should do. That's the preferred way, not just for society to operate, but that's how to maximize happiness in the majority of people's lives. I'm not saying that's right for everyone, but that should be what we're pushing for culturally. Does that mean that we can't make changes to our institutions of marriage and how things like no-fault divorce mean that men are basically always given the short end of the stick? And no, of course not. Or men so rarely get custody of children if there's a divorce. Of course, those sorts of things could be tweaked. But as an institution itself, I think that we should culturally push for men and women to engage in monogamous relationships, to get married in the eyes of God, and to then procreate. I think that if we base society in that way, I think that that's the way to maximize not just the morality of this country, but the happiness of people therein. So I'm not quite sure what Andrew's position will be in that debate, but I would assume it would be something close to that. Now, this panel that's going to be coming, the debate occurred on Sarah Tomato's channel, and then she's going to open up the panel to members first, which I'm a member, and then she will open it up to all members of the public. So I'm not sure that I will stay the entire length of the panel or of the open panel, but I figured I would be on here for some point or another to kind of give my opinions on what I thought in the debate and ask some questions, particularly to Misfit Patriot, because I think that there's some significant questions that I have for him, such as, the idea that he seems to waffle back and forth why being woke right means that you have to have racial identitarianism, or if you just have to have things that are considered fringe beliefs, such as the belief that life begins at conception and there should be no abortions. There's other problems that I had with things that Misfit said. For example, he talks about the idea that it's like, well, if you say black people steal, that would be an example of being woke. Instead, the way he would say it, he wouldn't say that. He would say, well, the statistics show that black people steal more because of these factors. Now, I agree in I think he's trying to say, which is you could take statistics and be racist. So, for example, if I hate black people, I just despise them because of their race, I could take the crime statistics and use that to smear black people, right? Whereas a more prudent way to go about it would be, well, why are these crime statistics the way they are? The problem is, though, to limit and say anyone who just says black people commit more crime is a bad person, is pejorative, is woke. The problem is that would imply then that the only people that could ever discuss those sorts of statistics were people that felt that they already had the answers as to why those statistics were the way they were, which would defeat the purpose of why we talk about these things like statistics in the first place, which is to ultimately first state what the truth is and then find out why that is the truth. If we say you can't state the truth until you know or have a good idea of why that truth is, then that's backwards. What that leads to is the same sort of woke principles that the left have that are like, you can't say that. You can't make that claim. It's racist to say black people commit more crime. It is not. It can be if you're using it for racist reasons, but to say that we can't say it because it means racism is nonsensical. Now, his answer to that will be, yeah, but we know there's a difference when a racist says it and when it don't. But we don't. That's the problem. That's why you see people like James Lindsay and even Misfit Patriot labeling people woke, implying that they're racist without having definitive proof of it. Robert Whaley, thank you again, man, for another 10 memberships. I really appreciate it. What else was I going to say? He says, why did so many different people on the right come up with the term woke right at the same time? So James Lindsay or Dan Crenshaw or Misfit Patriot. Well, the reason is because they all have the same agenda, right? They all want to consolidate power around their individual faction within the right. For example, neocons aren't too happy with the populist MAGA right. Why? Because they see themselves as losing power. So they'll engage in rhetoric against the MAGA right that's very similar to what the left does. That's why you have people like Adam Kissinger or Liz Cheney saying, oh my God, Trump's a fascist, Trump's a Nazi, etc., etc. That's why you've seen so many of those people in the old school establishment right make those arguments. Why? Because they're appealing to the left and the tactics they've seen as useful that the left has used. That's why so many people on the right or that are centrist are attacking certain groups on the right as woke right, seemingly independently. The reason is because they understand the utility of using the very language and tactics that have been successful previously to label people within their own brig tent organization now, the right, Trump, those against the woke left, because they're jockeying for position to kick out the people that they don't want within that group. Now, you might say, well, that's legitimate. Why wouldn't you want to do that? If we're going to be big tent, don't we want to narrow in and focus on the agendas that are more important to us as individuals? Sure, but then be honest about it, right? And when you're engaging in the very behavior that you're criticizing other, oh, well, you're an identity politics purveyor. Yes, so are you, James Lindsay. So are you, Dan Crenshaw. So are you, Misfit Patriot. The criticism is a criticism of everybody is basically this, but we're only going to pejoratively say it to the people we dislike because we're trying to consolidate power. They're getting pretty heated here. So the next thing I was going to say is we need to get him to define the term coercion. That's something that we'll get. He claims that he doesn't want friendly fire, and he understands the importance of trying to avoid friendly fire and not overusing the term woke left, or woke right. But I challenge you to go back and watch this debate, because in his opening statement, he says, Andrew, you might not be woke right, but you're woke right adjacent. Then by the end of the debate, he's saying, clearly, we don't want to over-apply the word, and that would be a danger. And you're certainly not woke right, and neither is someone like Matt Walsh. But he previously said that Matt Walsh was, quote, the voice for or a mouthpiece for the woke right. So you can see within this debate, as he's pressed back, already he starts to step back of who he is putting this broad label on. He has said things through his Twitter, plus through this debate and other videos I've seen of him, that would say that people that are woke right would include people that question any of our decisions during World War II, question the efficacy of Churchill as this fantastic leader, want to be pro-life to the logical extent that you would just want a ban on all abortions except that for the life and safety of the mother. People that have any criticism of the amount of money that we send towards Israel as a country. All of these things would be considered woke right by him at some point or another. And that's just the way he uses the term in his own proprietary definition. If we branch it out to how someone like James Lindsay or someone like Douglas Murray would use it, you can see that it includes even more people. James Lindsay may himself say that Misfit Patriot is woke right if Misfit Patriot would maybe have a belief that he's MAGA and thinks, you know what, we should employ the Alien Enemy Act to kick out all these gang members. James Lindsay may very well say, nope, that's woke right. You're claiming to be a victim of these illegal invaders. You're violating their due process to send them out. That's using authoritarianism. Therefore, you're gone. So again, the problem with employing this word in a very loose way, when the definitions would include everyone up to and including the founding fathers, you can start to see the dangers. And the only thing it does is it provides comfort for the left. It helps the left be able to use those terms. And that was once used so effectively against them. The last point that I had that I wanted to make is the fact that he talks about the founding fathers but chooses not to apply the label to the founding fathers, even though they meet the definition, proves that it's just about selectively applying this to people that you just disagree with. He would be absolutely fine with someone engaging in identity politics and grievance behaviors as long as it was a group that he felt affinity for. Then he would say, yes, that works absolutely fine for me. I don't have a problem with it. So, still waiting. You can see the problem here. So I've been streaming for 30 minutes. They said they were about to bring me on. Yeah, Penguin Potasso says, so then the term woke right is just being used as extreme right. Right, alt-right, extreme right, right. They've intentionally used the term woke right because they're trying to apply that label to a group of people they dislike in a way that uses a term that they use derogatory towards the left. But anyways, that's the gist of what I was saying. So now they're talking about the woman who raised all that money that said the N-word. They're talking about them. So I am going to pull my headset off. And we'll wait until they pull me up. It could be another half hour for all I know. I don't know. This happens a lot, though. When you get to super chats and stuff, you end up having more of the debate, an hour more of the debate. And so oftentimes, if you're waiting to be brought on to ask questions or to participate, oftentimes it becomes something that takes a while to get to. So let's get some more super chats. I think I missed some. Robert Whaley, thank you again for another 10 gifted. And not quite dead. Thank you so much for $5. Says, have some money. I will take your money happily. Absolutely will. So I don't know how late I could be up. So if they're not getting to bring people into open panel till 2 a.m. or something, I might have to duck out before then. But Pandemic Slayer says, I specifically made that point to James Lindsay after having some back and forth with him on X, and he blocked me. Technically, he called me a fascist, then he blocked me. Right. James Lindsay blocked me about 2 years ago. I can't remember the exact nature of the conversation, but it had something to do with the fact that he was basically saying we shouldn't go after companies that are woke because they have no choice but to be woke because of environmental, social, government policies. And so they... Oh, okay. I'll be coming on soon. So he blocked me for saying I disagreed with him on that. All right. We're getting ready here. Can you guys hear that?
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go ahead and take the just a brief moment to explain, because I know we do have some newbies to the panel. If I'm talking, that means you are not. If I have to interrupt or something of that factor, it is for good reason. It's either to control the panel or read a super chat, because our people have voices too. If you continue to interrupt me, I'm just going to tell you to shut the fuck up or send you home. Either way, there are plenty of people backstage waiting to get on. I don't need your bullshit this evening. Outside of that, I will leave the floor open. If let's say,
is that
Rob,
the legendary Rob Noor? I saw the legendary Rob Noor sneak in here. What's up, Rob? How you doing?
Just trying to piggyback off greater people than me success. It's great to be here. It was a fun debate. You guys did well.
Rob, would you like to go ahead and kick it off, actually?
Yeah, sure. Why not? So, Misfit Patriot, I just had a couple questions for you. The first is, you had sort of this proprietary definition that had 4 parts. One of the parts that you seem to be focusing on that you didn't feel you met was coercion. Could you define coercion for me?
I would say that when you promote like some sort of a mob mentality, you know, like where you, like, let's say there's a lot of people on the right that that use like fake engagement and gang stalking to you know, intimidate others. It's cancel culture, and it happens all the time with these groups. You know, it's like, report this. While we were debating, I got somebody who's saying that I'm the actual one that threatened to rape Sarah Fields, and they got to report my account. And these are right wing. Every time I look at this, I see a groiper frog attached to this account. So it's just maybe it's my own personal experience that I'm going off of, but I see a lot of the cancel culture tenets towards me.
Would it be fair to say, like, let's say you have a channel, you have a sponsor, and a bunch of groypers contact the sponsor to try to, like, get them? Would you consider that sort of the coercion you're talking about?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. I couldn't help but notice previously on your X feed, you seem to endorse the Bud Light boycott. Would that be an example of you being an aggrieved victim that used cancel culture?
Bro.
So here's the thing I did with the Bud Light thing. I said I don't do cancel culture, so I'm not going to stop drinking Bud Light, but I don't drink it anyway. And I said I don't want to go down this road of doing what the left does. However, what I said was I'm for capitalism, and I'm for spending your money where you want it. So if you all want to not buy this product, I think it's a much better form.
Sounds
of
coercive. Sounds a little coercive.
Which is, like, it's boycott through force. So I didn't endorse it full-throatedly, but I said, hey, you're free to do what you want with your own money. I don't do it.
If I can, I think my fundamental, like, one of the fundamental disagreements I have with you in this is, I think that Andrew's spot on when he says that there's a reason that you've taken this term, and the reason that it's bad to take that term from the perspective of the rest of us on the right is it actually gives aid and comfort to the left, because it takes away the sting of how woke was so successful going after them, and it just applies it in a way that basically everyone on the right, including the founding fathers, based on your definition, would meet, but you're just applying it pejoratively to groups you don't like. So if I could real quick show some examples within this debate. You at one point said woke right would be people that are pro-life at conception and don't want any abortion except the life of the mother. You said that this would be an example of woke right, people that say that black people steal more, and that you wouldn't do that. Instead, you would give the reasons they do. But you understand the problem with that, right? The way we get to understanding how the world works is by first stating truths. And if you're saying you can't state that truth until you know the reason, you can't say black people commit more murder unless you know the reason why. That would be considered woke. You had said before you liked a video on X that you said was the death of the woke right, or murder of the woke right. Things that it was saying in there was things like, culturally, our country was better pre-World War II. And that actually Churchill didn't do everything right. So it seems to me that you've overbroadened this term so much, and that you're basically just had some bad interactions with some groypers, and you want to complain about that. And so now you're using this term that's actually hurting or helping the very group that you made your whole brand going after, the left.
Yeah, I think that, like you said, I will agree that the term is being overbroadened. I don't think that I personally have overbroadened anything. I try to define it as accurately as possible, where those four tenets aren't the only tenets. They're just the ones that I was describing for this debate purpose. I think that when you...
So do the tenets expand when you want to add someone to the group?
No. I mean, I have the full chart here, and I could quickly go through it if you guys want.
Can I ask where you got the chart from?
Oh, Dusty's gonna stab somebody. Watch out.
Oh,
Check yourself.
is
He's
he
gonna do a Carmelo Anthony.
is he
He's
frozen?
going to stab somebody in self-defense on the panel right now. Watch out.
I'm
Back
trying to
to
get
the
rid.
point. Please continue.
Where did you
Okay.
get the chart from? That's
I saw it. Yeah, I saw it on X. Okay, so it's the difference between the left and right based on foundational narrative. And it would take me way too long to go through all of this. Identity politics, moral absolutism, approach to traditions and institutions, view of liberty, truth and evidence, role of state, tactics of coercion, inclusion, vision of reform versus revolution. Now, I'm not going to go through this whole chart, obviously, but I'll post it. What it does is it brings the similarities in detail between the two, and then the person can decide for themselves.
Rob, I must apologize. Somebody has some people in the background, and it is very distracting. If you have people in your house that are talking very loudly or a tab open or something, I'm not sure what it is, but it's very obnoxious and annoying. I can hear it. Please just mute yourself, and I'll be happy. Thank you. Continue, Rob.
Yeah, I'll stick around real quick. I'll just finish with this point, but I can stick around, no problem. But I don't want to dominate. I think that like even there, like
Dominate. Do it.
I think that it's clear that you're admitting that this is sort of a proprietary definition. Now you're bringing on a definition that you found on X. For all we know, that came from a liberal centrist like James Lindsay, right?
No.
And so the problem is, even you on your X account, you've given like 7 definitions of woke and woke right. Then we have definitions from people like James Lindsay. Now they might all have similarities, but they're different on sort of they're different on how they're being applied. I think even you can see the danger of how this is being used. Even in this debate, you started off very brashly in your opening statement, and you made the claim that Matt Walsh was like a mouthpiece for the woke right, and you said, Andrew Wilson, you are woke right adjacent. By the end of the shellacking that you got, you were like, oh, you're certainly not woke right, and we have to worry about friendly fire. And even in the 2 hours of this debate, you've already waffled on who's woke right.
How many times are you going to gaslight me in this tirade?
I hope zero.
You gaslighted like 20 times in your closing, where you claim that you did not make, where you claim you didn't say things that you did actually say.
You guys done? All right, look. I didn't say Matt Walsh was woke, right?
Are you done gaslighting?
Hold on. I didn't say Andrew Wilson was
woke.
Are
you done gaslighting?
Are you going to shut the fuck up?
Are you done gaslighting?
Stop, Adam. It's enough.
I didn't say Andrew was woke right in my opening statement. I never said Matt Walsh was woke right.
Rob didn't say you said that.
Well, he said adjacent. He said adjacent.
I said
Rob was very. Why are you gaslighting all of us? You're claiming that Rob is saying something you didn't say. Continuous
Adam,
gaslighting
I thought
with
girls
Misfit.
called people gaslighters. Come on now, get to the point.
You want me to finish?
Stop fucking gaslighting Adam, Sarah.
Everybody gaslit. I don't even trust my own senses anymore.
Everybody put the gaslighters down. Look, like I said,
I love Russian film.
So all I was trying to say is that Andrew can make the argument that Andrew is adjacent, just like he made the argument that I'm adjacent. And I don't want to broaden the term, and the term will be weaponized. My question to you is, when you call somebody woke left, can you tell the difference between a simple Democrat and a woke leftist? And I think that everyone understands what it is, right?
What is it? You tell me. If everyone, I know what I would say.
I would say the woke faction of the left wing is the more progressive, like the squad, right? So we have the squad on the left, and we have the groypers on the right. I think that they're both bad.
But that's not a definition. That's just identifying people that you were claiming are.
Hey guys, I'm the woke left. Do you mind if this representative of the woke left chimes in a little bit? First of all, I want to say,
shout out to the wokest boy ever, Ryan.
You guys were talking about Carmelo Anthony earlier. I do want to be clear that the police affidavit regarding that, so the evidence regarding that case does show or does outline that Austin did instigate that verbally and physically. Just to be clear about the facts of that.
Doesn't mean that it was self-defense.
That's one of over 30
right,
witnesses.
So just to be clear, the reason people are donating is because they want to make sure that he gets.
No, they're donating because it's tribalism. They want to say "fuck you, Whitey."
Different. Maybe they disagree with you. I disagree with you, obviously. So I'm speaking to the topic here.
I don't know.
Everybody
here has seen the comments. Everybody here has seen the comments on the GoFundMe.
Guys,
shut up.
Can I give a quick definition of woke?
Listen.
Okay,
woke.
learn a lesson. I literally just said, shut the fuck up. Ryan, could you please continue your thought, please?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate you. So woke politics, as it's usually defined, is talking about how systems shape outcomes. The injustice is built into institutions, and collective action can dismantle it. The woke right plays a dirty trick. They steal the structure of that critique, they strip it of substance, and they flip the target. They cry that family court bias. They cry about family court bias to reassert male dominance, not to protect women or kids. They treat queer freedom as a personal attack. Andrew himself has claimed that gay marriage devalues his own marriage somehow. They call learning history anti-white. They scream groomer while policing your kids' bodies by law. It's not just hypocrisy, it's DARVO. It's denying the harm, attacking truth tellers, and reversing the victim.
Hang on. Actually, Ryan, this is fucking great.
Last sentence before Andrew.
But I'm going to agree with you.
The woke right is, well, that's fine. You can agree with me when I'm
done. Yeah, go ahead.
The woke right is real. The woke right is real.
Yeah.
It's stolen language, weaponized for.
Now, hang on, Ryan. Can you help me out with something? You would consider yourself to be a political leftist, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for that, Misfit Patriot, you fuck. Thanks for that, Misfit Patriot, you fucking fuck. Me and Rob really appreciate that, Misfit Patriot. Good fucking job, Misfit Patriot.
You know what? I agreed with 30% of what he said, and if they're recognizing it, right? But if they're recognizing it and
total cope. No. You tell me what exactly you actually disagreed with Ryan about. I don't even believe you.
I don't agree about the gay people and the groomer thing. But anyway, hold on. What I'm saying is, if he is now, as a woke leftist, putting a negative connotation on the woke right, he's putting a negative connotation on himself. So it cancels out. He's basically saying,
no, he's not. He loves the shit. He loves intersectionality. He adores it. He thinks equity is the way things should be. He's 100% behind it. He thinks your definition of it is great. He can't wait to call more fucking right wingers woke right. Look at this fucker. Ryan, tell me I'm wrong. You can't wait, can you? No, he loves it. Thank you, Misfit Patriot. You're a fucking swell guy, Misfit Patriot.
What Ryan just said, I don't know if you didn't hear it. What he just said is that the model is correct, but it's being misapplied.
Right.
That's what he just said. So he's saying the woke left is correct and the woke right is incorrect. That's what he just said.
Let me ask you a question specifically.
Obviously, you disagree with the model, but that's not what I'm saying that's what he said. Okay.
Sure.
Ryan, let me ask you a question specifically. When the first thing you mentioned there seemed to be like the court systems, right? And you said something, I don't want to put words in your mouth. So your argument was they've adapted sort of this phrase of like the institutional bias, but it's not really to protect women and children. It's for the grievances of men.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you tell me why that's a bad thing?
Because their concern is not about women and children like they claim it to be.
Okay,
I care about people in general.
Wait. What do you mean? One, do you think the concerns of men's concerns are valid?
Which concerns?
Like, for example, it seemed to be that you were saying about like custody battles and things like that. So a man being far less likely to get custody of his child after a divorce.
I think generally there's a lot more grounded reasons for why that is than the courts just being.
But you would admit that there's at least some court bias, right? And traditionally, there has been. Yeah. Okay. Great.
So then, the question is, what is the language that they're using in the context of those sort of criticisms of divorce court, etc., where they're lying, they're misleading people that they care about the woman and the child?
So they're using the lens of systemic issues, which I think is a useful lens. But the reason they're misapplying it is because they dodge all the rest of the picture. Like they focus specifically on men's grievances, and instead of an intersectional lens where they understand how those issues hurt men and women and children.
But the same is true. The same is true of the woke left, and that's why Andrew's definition of this is actually reactionary makes more sense, because this is a reaction of the woke left has only focused on the issues of the groups that they consider to be oppressed. Men are considered oppressors, and so their well-being and concern when it comes to issues, in this case divorce courts, are never looked at. In fact, I would bet that you yourself have mocked men's rights issues groups and people that talk about men's rights as being bigoted and unfairly, unjustly adapting the framework of the woke left, etc., etc. So you yourself proves the point of that your side as well is only viewing it through one lens.
No, I disagree. I think that like I said, I approach it from an intersectional lens where I understand how it hurts men as well.
Okay, so explain that. Explain to me how women disproportionately getting custody of children afterwards is a good thing for men, because that's what happens. And so you would have to say, oh no, the right is wrong when they say that hurts men. That's actually beneficial for men. Can you explain that?
Well, I would say generally in the cases where the children are given to the mother, it's because the mother is deemed to be a more appropriate guardian, and a lot of those young men a lot of those children are going to grow up to be young men, and so those men are going to benefit from being in a more stable household than they would be if they were granted to the man who's deemed to be a less stable
Give me the percentage just off the, like, I'm not going to hold you to an exact number, but just give me an idea of the average husband versus the average wife, or the average man versus average woman that are parents. That on average, how often would you assume the woman would be better than the man?
I think when we're speaking to specifically the court cases, I'm more focused on the
irony of what you've just done there. I don't think you have any evidence to back up your claim other than institutional bias, which is ironic because that again gets to Andrew's point about the reactionary. What are you reacting against? All of the institutions are on your side. You point to an institutional bias and say, see, clearly if women are getting the children more, it must mean that the women are better. And therefore, men, they have it totally wrong when they're looking at their issues. And by the way, we could go through each and every example you gave of the woke right being bad and play that same game each and every time. The truth is, you don't care, nor does the woke left, about these issues of the groups that are oppressed. You don't care about white issues. You don't care about male issues. You don't care about Christian issues. These groups are considered oppressors, and so the cultural Marxist framework of woke says that they should be attacked. The reactionary says, we're not asking for special privileges, we just want an even playing field.
Right, we're not looking for equity, exactly. We dismiss the idea of equity and egalitarianism completely, right, which is the pillars. And Ryan, you have to admit, the pillars that you're after here are based around equity, aren't they?
I like egalitarianism. I like equity.
But equity, well, equity and egalitarianism aren't the same word, and they mean different things, but they're two pillars that you have. Well, and I think that a lot of right-wingers agree with you on egalitarianism, but don't you think most right-wingers dismiss the idea of equity?
When you say equity, what do you mean?
So the way it's traditionally explained by your woke side would be tall guy, short guy, tall guy, short woman at a fence. Tall guy can see over the fence. Equity would be bringing a little box over so that woman can stand on the box and also see over the fence. That would be equity.
Sure. So it's like, that's a good kind of memified version of it. I agree. So it's basically like it's equality of opportunity of outcome.
Yeah. So that would be equity. What? And so that's not the case. But if you, as long as you,
opportunity of outcome,
whatever, hang on. But whatever you want to determine that as, the pillar of this intersectionality is indeed equity, yeah? You want equity. That's the point.
In my terms, not
in your terms. No, I'm not talking about me, but in your terms, equity is the pillar, right?
It's a pillar, yeah, sure.
Well, I mean, if I were to reduce why intersectionalism is so important to you, it would be so that you could determine where things are unequal and unequitable between various groups and create corrections for that, right?
Yeah, where there are discrepancies between opportunity.
Yeah, so it reduces to equity, egalitarianism is my whole point. That's why these two things are not equitable at all when it comes to the ideological principles between what Misfit calls woke right, what you call woke left. Now, you see, I just demonstrated for you, Misfit Patriot, the distinction reduction of this very ideology comes down to fucking equity. Now, hopefully you see it for yourself, and look at how quickly he weaponized your language against all of the right. All of them.
Hey, I have just two questions for Mr. Patriot.
Before you go, I want to read just a couple more super chats, and then I'll turn it back over to you, Adam. Noah R with the Big 10 says, call me crazy, but if Misfit Patriot needs basic concepts of debates explained to him, he probably shouldn't be doing debates.
Oh, I love this one. So here's the deal. I think that you should always accept debates, and you should always engage in long form content, even at the risk of losing them, because I think that it's the only way that we come together as a nation. I don't think that we should have this appeal to authority on who is and isn't a good debater. I think that that's the fucking the Douglas Murray argument that everybody made against him, where they were like, why is it that only experts can do this thing? right? I don't know the language. I don't know the freaking like.
There's a course I know of that can help you though. It's called Debate University. It's very good.
Yeah, I heard about
even leftists who buy it enjoy the course.
See,
so
that's actually, you know what? I'll make
buy it now.
Buy it now.
I'll make the counter.
Do it. Hurry up.
I'll make the counter argument to that, because I think that what debates have sort of devolved into is this sort of elite group of people who are really good at using
logic,
framing tactics. No, I'm saying framing tactics from traditional debates, where it was debates used to be between basically professional debaters, the great debaters, and then you get people that sort of come in and talk to these people who are versed in debates versus people who aren't versed in debates, and the people who are versed in debates win, and the other people.
Well, hang on. Rob was a professional debater, and I have seen Oxford level debates, just like Jay Dyer says. Insults are the nature of debate, and so is framing. Because if I can't frame my worldview, you can't frame yours. What the fuck are we arguing?
No, we're not arguing. What I'm saying is, I think that people should do debates who are not like great debaters in order to.
I agree, but shouldn't they try to get better at their craft?
No, well, that's what I'm doing right now.
Yeah. So I have a course for you, Debate University. It's gonna pay Rob's salary this month, so fucking buy it. Buy it now.
On top of that,
I got you.
If you don't find that as very satisfying.
If
you don't find that, if you're not interested in that debate course specifically, then you should check out the Radical Coder channel, because I personally have gone against Rob and Andrew for 3 hours straight
and lost.
Go to debateuniversity.com today to buy
you
a
can learn what not to do. Peaches in with the Big Ten says Misfit's an emotional toddler, unable to comprehend Andrew's logic, so he hurls insults and refuses to admit he's wrong. Jesus doesn't approve of hypocrisy. He's prideful, emotional, and stiff-necked.
I think with the exception of my opening argument, there were very few insults in this debate. I think it was actually really well done.
Yeah, you utilized an interesting strategy at the beginning, which I think others might want to adopt. I'm going to coin it pre-debate cope, where before your opening statement, you provide all of the reasons why you will not be winning the debate.
It's
a good strategy. You know,
it is not a good strategy. It's one of the most loser mindset things when you start off saying, well, the only reason it looks like I'm going to lose is because the other person's a better debater. Like, that's nonsensical. That's the equivalent. But that's the equivalent of being like, well, the only reason I'm about to lose this boxing match is because the other guy's a better boxer than me.
So I've been checking the comments. I've been checking the comments under Sarah's X, and some people are actually claiming that I won the debate. I'm sure they're fans of mine, but that's the whole thing. It's subjective, right? It's like, I mean, a debate is always going to be subjective.
Yeah, but some people think the earth is flat.
Yeah, I understand that, but I mean, what are you going to do? Make the populist argument? Well, Andrew has more followers and more fans, so more people are going to say he won the debate.
But that's fine. But what I'm saying is, it is not an argument to not be able to.
I'm going to call this one post-debate cope.
It's not an argument to push back against a legitimate argument that your opponent's making by saying, "Oh, you're just doing that good debater thing." That's not an argument.
I get what you're saying. You know, I get what you're saying. I knew what I was doing when I wrote the opening.
But you did it after that too. But
fair enough. Jess Gerald in with the Big Ten says, I'm still not understanding what the woke right is. And to be quite frank, hold on. I want
to respond to that specific one.
Okay. Fine. Jesus, Adam. God,
so,
you want to talk so bad.
Yeah, well, so James Lindsay put out the most succinct definition he's ever put out for anything ever on this, just literally today. So his definition is a group of wokeness is a group of people who believes that they're being oppressed by some hegemonic culture, and they believe that due to them being on the outside, they have some greater insight into reality, and that they should group up with other people who are on the outside in order to take over the system. Now, the woke right in this would just be a right-wing person who does that. Now, obviously, that's incredibly broad, but that's a definition which he said on a podcast and then posted all over his Twitter. So
yeah, and you can just make this trivially true about any group which exists. So it's meaningless. And you know what else is meaningless? The fact that Jess Gerald's out here whoring around on me, which I keep on telling him not to, you know what I mean? But he just keeps fucking doing it. It's fucking bullshit, Jess Gerald. Why? You sent it to a chick's channel, Jess Gerald. What the fuck, dude? What's going on here?
He's putting my kid through Catholic
school. Maybe because I'm nicer to him. Look, you're yelling at him. I never yell at him.
He yells at me.
But I do still have my questions for Misfit Patriot. Sorry.
I want to follow up on something Rob said.
Hold on. We'll get through two more, and then I'll give it back to Adam. Okay. The Unquirer with the Big Ten says woke equals identity politics mixed with Marxism, oppressor-oppressed framework.
That's a perfect.
And the Trib One with the Big Ten says came in very late from what I saw. Andrew clearly won. Woke is a term in like many terms. It can be used many ways without losing its meaning. The meaning is what matters. Bad faith ops weaponize ghosts.
He came in late, so he didn't see my opening statement where I said this was going to happen.
That's fair. And just a kind reminder to all of you.
That's that pre-debate cope, bro. That's what he's talking about.
Just a kind reminder to all of you, it is Mother's Day, and you all give me validation knowing I can come on a panel and mom every one of you, and it is beautiful and the epitome of what today is. Thank you so kindly. Adam, to you.
Yeah, so Patriot, I was trying to understand your position on the founders. It seemed as if, now tell me if I'm wrong, but it seemed that your position was it's improper to refer to them as woke because they existed prior to the term being used widely, so they wouldn't qualify as woke. Is that accurate to your position?
Not really, but kind of. But basically, I think that Andrew correctly identified that woke was brought up to by the Black community. I think it was as a challenge to the authority structure where they wanted equity, correct?
Equity, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So if that whole thing didn't really exist when because the founders founded the country, so I guess you could say that there is some way to say that that's what they were doing towards the British.
Well, I mean, it just definitionally fits your definition. So, like, the thing is
it even fits Lindsay's definition.
Yeah, I could say easily, for instance, that I could look at the historic standard for people who practiced communism before we gave words to what communism was. A very good example of this, which is often cited, is Jamestown. As a refutation of communism, that they lived in a more communal state, which is likened to a communistic state. And until they moved over to a more capitalism frame, they were all starving to death. I've actually heard that used as a refutation. And I think it's fine to use it as long as they fit the paradigm of what you're talking about. They would be considered, at least in present day, to be fucking woke right? I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it by your definition.
Sure. Yeah. Like
and to James Lindsay's definition, they certainly believed, but
I don't think James Lindsay's doing a great job at defining it because he's getting way too intellectual and way too, like
James Lindsay is the person who's popularizing the term.
He popularized it, and Jordan Peterson even said that he doesn't have it down. Like he on Joe Rogan, who was like, Lindsay's correctly identifying the problem but not articulating the definition.
But just real quick, you do understand that you appealed to not just Lindsay but Dan Crenshaw and others, right? When you were like, everyone came up with this at the same time. How could disparate people? So to now be like, well, I actually don't think his definition is correct.
No. You're misinterpreting what I said. What I said was three separate people recognized a problem around the same time of a subculture of the right that was becoming problematic, and the way that we viewed it was somehow woke, and we defined it separately without any definitions match. I don't know what Dan Crenshaw's definition. Dan Crenshaw's a cunt, so I don't know what his definition is. Right? James Lindsay, I don't really follow James Lindsay. I don't know what his politics are.
Let me ask you this: you have a big MAGA tattoo in your leg, right?
Oh, I got Donald
so
Trump.
You're a Trump fan, right?
I have a historical tattoo.
Okay, right, of the defiant photo, right, of Trump getting shot. There's a good chance that James Lindsay thinks that Donald Trump's woke.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying.
He does believe that JD Vance is woke. Clear about that.
So Dan Crenshaw's a rhino. I'm MAGA. James Lindsay's something else. We're all recognizing a problem around.
James Lindsay's a new atheist.
Yeah, sure. Right. So
he believes all the same shit that a new atheist would believe.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. You're actually proving my point.
A neocon new atheist, no doubt.
Yeah, so you're proving my point.
Yes, more like that.
Three different people of three different ideologies recognized a problem in the right and called it out, and we just accidentally all called it the same thing. That's ridiculous. We called it that because it's what it looked like.
Did you wait? Hang on. Wait. You tattooed a man's name to yourself, bro?
No, I tattooed.
Terrible.
I tattooed I tattooed Donald Trump. I'll put it on the screen. I tattooed the Time magazine cover. The Time magazine cover where Donald Trump is holding up his arm.
So you tattooed a man to yourself.
Absolutely.
Well,
and I have $100 super chat that came in via Cash App from Mr. He says, shout out to Rob, PA Boys keeping it red with the big 100. Shout out to you, Mr. Thank you so kindly.
Well,
go ahead.
Misfit,
Misfit Patriot. I just have one thing to say regarding the whether or not the founders were woke thing. The reason I'm asking about the historical point is because if you're going to say that the founders were not woke due to the term not being around at the time, you would then have to disagree with James Lindsay and most of the other people using the term woke that Marx was woke. They all say Marx was woke.
Yeah.
But the term wasn't around during Marx, so either you have to admit that it can be applied historically, or it can't. And if it can't, Marx can't be woke.
I don't call Marx woke. So again, right? Like I don't know.
Did you just say yeah?
I think I was being a little bit more like literal than.
Let's talk about modern woke.
So yeah, like I mean, you can say that. All right. So Andrew did a good job at this, right? He said that you have a new term that you're trying to use as a defining term to somebody, and this is what it actually is, right? So reapplying it like new terms to old people, you need to take into the full context of, does it actually apply based off of where the ideology was at that time? So like, yeah, if you say women they excluded women, so that's woke. I'm like, yeah, but that was a different time where it's like they excluded women because that was just the way of the world at that time. They didn't exclude women like if we excluded women right now who already have rights.
Okay, wait, hold on. So hypothetically, hypothetical scenario, the people who you're calling woke left, they win everything. Like they completely take over all of culture. Ryan wins, becomes dictator, and then immediately abolishes the dictatorship after implementing everything he likes because he hates dictatorships.
So based.
In that case, would wokeness no longer exist because it's just the culture. Now it's not an ideology. It's just purely cultural.
I mean, I don't know. I guess you could say that woke is purely cultural.
Okay,
like,
so when it becomes implemented as policy, it's no longer like official government policy, then it's no longer wokeness. So it would be improper to say that any president is woke, like a law is woke.
I think we're getting into the weeds here. I think that it's
let's get in the weeds.
I think that its definition.
This is linguistic masturbation.
I think that its definition should be applied to a people group. Correct.
I just think that you're in tenuous footing anytime that you're saying that people that historically meet the exact definition that you've outlined wouldn't be considered because the term wasn't around yet. We could retroactively look at someone and say that person was a slave owner. It doesn't matter if the term slave owner was around then.
No, I understand what you're saying. I'm saying just apply it to the actual standard of the time. If you're going to retroactively apply it, don't apply it to 2025 standards and then put it in 1770.
Well, hang on here. Well, this is easy. Hang on. Were the apostles Christians?
I want me to go.
The apostles were Messianic Jews.
Were they Christians though?
Well, they were by today's standard, yeah, but they were Messianic Jews.
Okay, so hang on. The term didn't exist, but you would consider them Christians, right?
I guess so, but they were Messianic Jews.
Were they what is a Christian?
Follower of Christ.
Okay, and were they? And hang on, who other than the apostles were the most followery of Christ?
The Jews.
The Jews were not the followers of Christ.
The Messianic Jews.
No.
Sorry,
hold on, Andrew.
Who are the mostest followers? Hang on.
He's making your point by using the term Messianic Jew. He's making your point by using the term Messianic Jew. Messianic Jew is a contemporary.
It didn't exist. Yeah, it didn't exist at the time. But again, the idea here is like, who are the most followers of Christ ever? Wouldn't it be? Oh, I don't know. His fucking apostles, bro.
Yeah. No,
yeah. So they were Christians, right? They were Christians.
What we call them today is Christians. Yeah.
Okay. They were Christians, right?
What they didn't have.
They didn't have. It doesn't matter. You see what I'm saying? Like it doesn't matter. They were Christians.
That's what.
So when we talk about woke right now, like when we talk about the history of the word woke, right? We were talking about how I think Andrew brought up how it came from. Hang on, Adam.
Hold on, Adam. Adam, he was already talking. Stop it.
So I think Andrew apparently mentioned that the word woke generally comes from like the Black community, right? And what they're identifying is specifically it's not just cultural problems. It's actually like legal structural oppression of Black people. Like
Yeah, it's a problem of equity.
Black people were almost done. That Black people were allowed to do certain things, Black people were not allowed to do certain things that white people were allowed to do.
Well,
So
no. That's it's more modern than civil rights.
I mean, I think it emerged from that.
No, it's more modern than that. The term woke is more
what's the
modern.
difference here?
It's
What's the
more
difference?
modern. It's more modern than civil rights. The popularity of the term, especially, is way more modern than civil rights. I'm not going to say nobody ever in the civil rights movement used the word woke, but I think you'd be hard pressed to find that in the. But hang on. But the idea here still. I agree that with the leftist analysis here of what they mean by woke, which is still going to be equity. Now, I don't agree with the ideology, but I agree that that's what they mean by the terms. You know what I mean? That's why it's so important to make those distinctions.
Sure, I think that the oppressor oppressed. Go ahead. So, well, I was just real quick. I think that what you're saying with the oppressor oppressed, defining term is the most defining term of woke. Whereas on the left, the oppressor oppressed is like this capitalistic society and the systematic racism and this, that, and the other. And then on the woke right, it's like this cabal of
there is no woke right. That you're talking about a reactionary movement
I get you.
to the purposes
of
them forcing through the institutions the ideology of intersectionality. There is no woke right. That's the wrong way to. And here's what you did too. You gave this little fuck a bunch of ammunition to use against the very people you would support. Like, I guarantee you Ryan right now could make a case for why it is that Matt Walsh is woke right. I bet you fucking yeah, exactly. See, definitely. First thing is that definitely. Go ahead. Tell me why Matt Walsh is woke right, Ryan. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the examples I brought up in my opening was about how the anti-CRT crowd, which James Lindsay himself hilariously contributed massively to this, but these people call learning history anti-white, right? They're upset that people are learning.
That's not what they
Hang on. Let him give the analysis. That's all that matters. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. They characterize this as institutional racism against white people, but when people talk about systemic racism, they're looking at like healthcare outcomes, the school to prison pipeline. They're looking at education.
So is Matt Walsh woke right, Ryan?
Totally, yeah.
Hey, thanks, Misfit Patriot. Thanks, bro. Thank you, Misfit Patriot.
Hold on. Here's my argument.
Hold that thought.
My argument to him is, why are you listening to him? He's woke left.
Because my predictor was that you gave a loaded machine gun to my fucking enemies, and you did. And here you see a guy. Listen, Ryan literally jockeys himself as like some sort of foil to me. He's not, but he likes to at least jockey himself like that, right? He likes to at least present himself as some kind of foil. But all of these newscasters and shit like this, bro, you are going to give them the most amount of fucking ammunition they've had in 2 years doing this kind of shit. We all know that that's going to happen. You think that Ryan there, who's hang on, he's half a dumbass, and he's already making and constructing arguments for why the people you do like are the very thing you're promoting.
So the people that have absolutely
Matt Walsh thinks the white people are victimized by equality.
See?
The people that have absolutely no credibility, that have destroyed their credibility, are going to try to get their credibility.
You're destroying your credibility by giving them ammunition against our side, bro. Don't give them ammo. Give them nothing. Listen. Always take the Wilson mantra. Not one step back and give them fucking nothing. Give them nothing. Don't let them have anything. The only thing I'll ever give Ryan is a new tooth because at heart, I'm a humanitarian fucking guy. I just am. But the thing is like, listen, don't give them anything for their political ideology. Fucking nothing.
All right. Emotional damage comes in with the Big Ten and says, is recognizing ignorance bad faith? I would argue that it's good faith and pure love making you realize you need to read and educate yourself before you debate someone like Andrew.
I don't think that I argued anything.
Hang on, I gotta ask a single question to you, Misfit Page. This came up in the chat from another panel show called his name is Speakeasy. I've been on his panels a bunch. He asked, so if a man in 1200 sucked 100 dicks, bro, is he gay?
I would assume so.
Oh, that term didn't exist then. The term didn't exist then, right? So he can't be gay, right?
We've already established that you can retroactively use.
All right. There we go.
Yeah, I've never said.
So if you sucked 100 dicks at 1200, you're fucking gay, right?
Yeah. Well,
all right. Emotional damage in with another 10 says, my prayer tonight to Jesus is to make misfits stumble on a book tonight, open it and read it.
I have books. I have them right there. A couple right there.
Katie K with the big 24. Release Satan. Satan is
he's out.
Red Fox with the big 10 says Andrew gave a free masterclass on debate. Misfits, subscribe to Andrew's Debate University. The hot take that Andrew was using tricks when he was using Socratic logic is wild.
Well, I was using the Socratic method, but I mostly use Aristotelian or Platonic logic. Honestly,
Andrew needs to give me a free month because I made him a lot of money just debating me. I'm very popular. He said it in the comment section. He goes, it's gonna be very profitable for me.
Yeah, for me.
Yeah, so give me a free month and I'll take your stupid course.
Yeah,
right. But you realize you don't pay monthly. It's just one time you get the whole course forever.
How much is it?
That would be a net loss for you.
Yeah, it's not that. It's a couple $100.
Okay, give me a couple $100.
No way. No, I mean, I got to give it to Ryan for his tooth.
Going to my tooth fund, yeah.
Yeah, it's for his tooth fund.
Stealing from this woke leftist here.
A Bree with the big 10. Ryan, I see the hurt and chat GPT in your eyes. Hope you laugh.
I will not hope less. But first of all, I want to say, first of all, I love using as a neurospicy ADHD person. ChatGPT is super helpful for organizing my thoughts. But second of all, I think it's really funny that what's happening here is that Andrew is mad that I'm using the label that Misfit seems to be recognizing. That even James Lindsay, my longstanding enemy, is recognizing. But he's saying we should not use this label because Ryan is going to identify the same thing we're talking about, and he's going to point it out to us, and it's going to be a disaster.
Well, no.
Hang on. Actually, Ryan, I'll just grant it because it makes my point and demonstrates it perfectly, right? Yeah, the idea here is that I don't. First of all, your ideology is fucking stupid. But the idea that it can be applied, to people who reject equity and egalitarianism as a general rule anyway, is fucking hilarious to me. And the fact that you will craft this as though you can point out the same group that these guys are trying to point out, even knowing they reject that ideology, you have to do tons of mental gymnastics to do it. The whole point is to take the nomenclature of woke, which you have had on your shoulders because it's really fun to make fun of you woke fucks, and then try to apply it to the right. That's it. You're jockeying and piggybacking off of people, once again, like most of you do, who are much more successful than you, trying to adopt their language to humiliate them. And that's my exact fucking point. Both of you guys make my point. Both of your fucking ideologies are stupid. I've blown both of them out multiple times. I'll continue to do so. But the one thing about Misfit Patriot that you don't have, Ryan, is perhaps he's somewhat teachable. And in this particular instance, right, you gotta think about this because this is being demonstrated to you now in real time, bro. Real time.
So, can I respond to that? Because there was a lot of
No, shut up, Ryan.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Wait. Go ahead, Ryan. Go ahead, Ryan.
Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate it. Yeah. So to be clear, in my initial statement, again, I identified that we're using the word woke to talk about the aesthetic that people like Matt Walsh.
Yeah, I reject that though.
James Lindsay are identifying, and that's fine. You can reject it. I'm
do.
telling you what I.
Matt Walsh doesn't have a believe. He doesn't have a victim mentality, though. I totally disagree. Matt Walsh doesn't really have a victim mentality. He doesn't blame the system for his problems. What he does is he espouses. He tries to raise all ships with the tide, and I think that's like. And I think that there are people who are mischaracterizing prominent figures already. I understand Andrew's argument there, and
way to go,
taking no, but you're blaming me when you should be blaming the people that acted fucking woke, right? And then three separate people, though.
You don't listen. You don't have to double down on the madness.
Wokeism.
You can just say, like, look, I hate these reactionaries. They don't reflect what it is that I believe on the right. I don't like them. Their fucking viewpoints are stupid, this and that. But what you do, you take it one step further and you adopt a leftist framework in order to give the leftist ammunition against the people you do not think are
I'm
reactionaries.
gonna start calling them reactionary woke right. That's what I'm gonna do.
Oh my
I'm
God.
What is the utility of the phrase?
Word.
Actually, I want to, Evan, you're panel squatting again. I want to go ahead and give you a moment to ask whatever question you want, have your engagement, then I'm going to go ahead and boot you, okay?
All right, sounds good. The Misfit Patriot, you're literally recreating the term alt-right that was used all throughout like the 2010s and before that, claiming anything right of like Mitt Romney was like a fascist, and you're just bringing that back.
Yep.
So please don't.
Yeah, with a different frame. And the thing is the leftists, by the way, the alt-right was coined by who? The right. It was coined by neocons. They were the ones who coined the alt-right, and it was used as a terrific weapon by the mass news media, leftist news media. And they were trying to identify that, by the way, MAGA's alt-right.
Yep.
All the people that you like are alt-right. That people who believe in the views you believe in are fucking alt-right. And basically saying anybody who was a right to a center leftist was alternative right. They were all racialists. They all fucking hated blacks. They all hated women. They all wanted to fucking oppress everybody. That's what they mean by alt-right, dude. Rob can, in fact, I bet you anything, Rob can walk you through the pacing.
I understand.
It's coming into the first Trump administration. Alt-right was utilized like you can't even imagine.
Don't you understand that's the genius behind it? Because the left can't.
No,
Can I ask you something?
Can you not interrupt? I want to get one thing out. This is the genius behind it, right? Because like Ryan can fucking say all day that Matt Walsh is woke right. Nobody's gonna listen to him because he's woke left. The media can who just destroyed their credibility can say woke right, and it won't fucking matter because the media is woke left. You basically are taking their power away from them by giving a term that they can't use because it would hurt their own side.
Let me refute this real quick, but with your own words, right? You're saying that most normies don't understand political concepts and they don't understand direct political concepts, which means that they're very open to rhetoric and propaganda. And yet at the same token, they're so politically fucking savvy that when the mainstream media comes out and begins to propagate this type of propaganda, somehow they're going to see through it. That's fucking bullshit, and it's a contradiction.
It's the walks like a duck fucking tact. Like, dude, this is what I'm saying. Imagine if fucking CNN comes out right tomorrow and goes the woke right. Like people would be like, "What the fuck? Are you saying woke is bad? Are you saying woke is bad because motherfuckers are
that's
woke?"
not what
No, the opposite. They would use it as a discrediting tactic to say the whole time they've been saying woke, they're doing the exact same thing. Ha 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 ha. When it came to the alt-right, but again, the contradiction in terms here was very simple to point out. You said in our debate, most people are not politically savvy enough to understand distinctions and definitions and the understanding of these narrow political views. I agree, and agreed with you in the debate that that's mostly true, which means that they're at the mercy of the rhetoric and at the mercy of the propaganda. And what you've done is allowed the propagandists to go ahead and utilize this against the very kind of like normie cons that you're trying to convert by your own admissions. Contradiction in terms. Oh, I can't wait for the media to start propagating this term against the normie cons who are too stupid to understand political rhetoric, but at the same time, all those people are going to see through the political rhetoric. That's stupid, dude.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I also think
I have a question for you, Misfit, in the same vein as Andrew's.
One sentence, please. I want to point out that
hold on, because
really
Kier hasn't spoken very much, so I'd like to allow him.
Yeah, I have a question in the same vein as Andrew's critique, as it's sort of a matter of strategy, right? So even if I took your understanding and your definition to be accurate, you would be identifying large portions of the necessary coalitions for you and the people you want to maintain power. So I'm confused. What is the utility in doing this?
Well, it's to isolate a group that is, I think, bringing down the entire party, right? Like, so if we don't,
right, but you're identifying most of the party. You're just bringing it all down.
So that's the thing. I'm not, and that's what you guys aren't understanding, because you have it in your head that what is going to happen is everybody is going to associate all of MAGA, all of the right with woke. And what my argument is,
Because of you, bro. Because of you, bro.
No. You're looking at it through a spectrum of
That's
people.
already happening.
You're looking at it as from a spectrum of somebody who has already understood the definition. What Andrew just did was he proved that I'm right, because people don't understand the definition. The only thing they're going to associate wokeness with is a negative connotation.
That's not true.
No, that makes my point, bro, because what you're saying is that by whatever you propagate, people will believe it because they're mindless drones and don't understand political moxie, like you were saying.
Yeah.
That means that if the left and mainstream media propagandize this, they'll move towards this fucking idea that all the people on the right are actually woke. That will be their propaganda, bro.
Yeah, I mean,
Misfit, let's make this clear real quick.
Hold on.
Can I just get one more thing in
Hold on.
to just finish
Go
my
ahead.
line of question?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so if it's the case that we think that the populace is not going to understand terms like this very specifically, who's to say that they won't misidentify themselves and then become against whatever it is you are advocating for, and we're therefore sort of excising a large portion of the voter base you need? I'm not sure how this confusion doesn't act against you.
It's because it's simple. These people, well, you're looking at it from a person who has defined the term. You're in the political space. My argument is people are just going to go, this is if the media or anybody tries to weaponize it against us, they weaponize it against themselves. Because if woke equals bad, then woke equals bad across all spectrums, right? So if anybody tries to bring out the woke right is bad argument from the left, from the media, from anybody, they are hurting themselves, because what they are saying is woke is bad.
You have defined woke right in a way that Nick Fuentes is equal to George Washington.
What the fuck are you talking?
It's only people on the right.
You guys are misrepresenting Misfit Patriot here. He said apply it to the standards of the time.
Okay, so George Washington was alive
let me clarify for you, Rob. Rob, let me clarify for you
Corinth.
really quickly. You guys are misrepresenting. You said apply it to the standards of the time. It's worse than that. Misfit Patriot, is it true that Jesus Christ was going through and getting rid of the old covenant to put in a new covenant, like making progress in moral law?
No.
It's not the case they established a new covenant?
Yes, new does not mean replace.
I didn't say replace. He established new.
You literally just said replace. Right? You just said get rid of old.
Okay, if I said that, I misspoke. Okay, he put in a new covenant, right? He made progress towards the end time.
He made a new. All right, so if you have a car, right, and the car's in your driveway, and you go buy a new car, and you don't sell your old car, do you have two cars or do you have a new car?
Sure, you can have two cars.
Yeah, okay.
But he's making progress towards the covenant that he's fulfilling, right? He fulfilled the covenant as well.
Sure.
So he's making progress, like a progressive of the time.
I know the word game you're about to play. And
Christ is a progressive by the standard, by applying it to the standards of the time?
No, false equivalency.
Where's the false equivalency?
If I could just have a second.
No, really quick. I want the false equivalency.
Let him finish. Let him finish.
Where's the false equivalency?
Because you're applying the dual. So there's dual covenants, and then you're applying a replacement theology, right? So, and when you say that Jesus was hold on, when you're saying that Jesus was progressive under replacement theory, right? So Jesus was progressive because he was progressive.
He never brought up replacement theology.
I know, but I am. But you're saying it's progressive.
Yeah, but that's not false equivalency.
It's progressive. You're saying it's progressive because he's progressing.
Was Jesus Christ's message for the time in comparison to stoning woman to death or not stoning woman to death, progressive or less progressive?
Yeah, no, you got me there. Okay, I'll concede.
Okay.
George Washington's not woke, but Christ is a progressive. Just to be clear.
I think that this is the liberal argument. Like Christ was a liberal. It's like
that's your argument. Your standards.
It's yours, exactly.
Makes Christ a progressive.
I think that you're being too reductive.
Christopher Scott in with the Big Ten. Well, I guess I'm whoring around too. Here's some shekels, Sarah. Happy Mother's Day. And thank you, Christopher. I hope you called your mom today.
Thank you, Mommy.
Q-Tard with the Big Ten. If Matt Walsh is woke right, then Sarah Tomato is woke mom. Debate over. Demon Slayer with the Big Ten. Did something happen to Ryan's jaw and teeth? Curious. You don't have to answer that. Who's typing? Please stop.
My God.
Just you know what? Just be fucking embarrassed and get off the panel. Just get off the fucking panel, you
Just
fucking scumbag.
remove yourself.
I would have, but
I'll respond though.
I have an obligation to ask Misfit more questions.
I have moral obligation. Can you not fucking type while you do your moral obligation, you prick?
Andrew, you know, like I find it funny that you won the debate, but everybody wants to ask me questions.
Well, that's
I mean, why do they need to ask the winner the questions? That's like, thank you for just naming me the winner.
I'm just saying, everybody.
They're still trying to make sure that you know what they're trying to do. They're trying to convince you. They're trying to convince you.
Misfit, if I may, I got a question for you real quick, and then one for Ryan. I'll get to you, Ryan. I'll get to you in here in a second.
You got a lot of questions, bro.
Misfit, you said that the best definition was that of oppressor. That was the best definition of woke.
I think that it's the if you're going to be reductive, of what it is, then it really does.
Let me ask you this, and so that means like institutional oppression.
Yeah. Well.
Okay.
Yeah.
That fair enough. Given that, was Donald Trump oppressed?
I would say yeah.
So then he's woke.
Sure.
You don't see the problem with you using the term woke, right? You got the man's image tattooed on your leg.
No, you're looking at you're leaving out the victim mentality part where he was.
I would say that Donald Trump ran on the promise.
Yeah, almost getting shot in the face. Yeah. He's kind of a victim.
He was talking about this quite a few times.
He was oppressed. What? See, this is the thing. When you guys try to say that if somebody is attacked, right, are they oppressed? The answer is yes, right? If you say, did that person fight back and did they win the fight? Are they a victim? No.
But that's not. But how did he win back? Real quick,
he's the fucking president.
Listen, how did he become president? One of the reasons he became president was because millions of people in this country thought that the institutions engaged in lawfare against him, in addition to the actual physical threats that he saw. So they thought
those institutions tried to fucking kill him. By the way,
so that would make Trump woke.
So that's it. Like Jesus is woke because he was put on a cross. Like it's like, dude, like
exactly Rob's point. Fucking brilliant. You got it. You finally get it now.
But he wins, right? He wasn't a victim because he knew he was going to be put.
So the woke right's going to win.
If Groypers win, then they're not woke.
They're not woke. I don't know. I don't get it.
The Groypers feel oppressed.
First of all,
I don't think oppressed.
First of all, you guys keep saying the populace is stupid or whatever.
Ryan, let me jump in real quick. No, because you just
yeah, made everyone's got another diatribe.
You made a really valid point. I promise, Ryan, I will give it back to you. You made a really valid point. The reason why the woke left is so fucking bad is because they feel oppressed and they're not oppressed. They have this false thing, this false ideology of I'm oppressed and you're actually not. Just like if there's an
there's no way you actually believe that, right?
No, so is there really systemic racism or is there systemic classism, right? There's really not systemic
irrelevant.
racism.
That's not what I'm oh my goodness.
They're both oppression.
Let me know when I can go, Sarah. Give
it back to Ryan.
I'll you go right after. Yeah, I'll be really quick. So first of all, I want to point out that they kept saying that they think the general populace is stupid. As the radical left here, I don't think you're stupid. I think the average person thinks the average person is stupid, besides themselves, of course, which is kind of hilarious. But Andrew,
you are fucking stupid, and I'm about to prove it.
Andrew correctly identifies that what people are identifying as the woke right is very easily applicable to the broader MAGA movement. And your concern about MSNBC being self-defeating by labeling things woke bad, it's unlikely because they, like me, are going to mock them for what you were just saying, which they're actually going to identify, hey, black people really do have worse healthcare outcomes. They really do have worse education outcomes. There really is a school to prison pipeline. And white people are really not oppressed by learning about history. Queer people are actually oppressed when you try to take their right to marriage, but Andrew is not oppressed.
Thanks, Misfit Patriot. Thank you, Misfit. Thank you, Misfit Patriot. Thanks, Misfit Patriot. Thank you.
Ryan's the same as Misfit Patriot. That's why I get so frustrated with this. Misfit Patriot, what you fail to hold on, give me a second. You guys been talking forever.
Go ahead, Tim.
Misfit Patriot, you seem like a nice guy, but what you don't understand is these people weaponize fake liberal rage. I am a politically homeless gay person that is completely ostracized from the LGBTQ. All right? So, Andrew, I want to ask you something. So, if a person says, hey, I don't really care about Garcia, I just care about my own rights, and they want him brought back, do you think that they're responsible, just like I think people are responsible who advocated for unlimited immigration? That you think that they'd be responsible if he's brought back to America and then goes and grapes or kills somebody?
I think that they would shoulder some burden of the contribution to the ideology. Yes.
And then you shouldn't ever be able to like really respect them unless they go, yeah, I was wrong about that.
Well, I mean, I guess it depends on the reasoning, but I see the train of thought. I would say, generally speaking, if it is the case that you take no responsibility for the ideologies which you promote ultimately, and then they do X bad thing, I think that you should at least interrogate your worldview to see if it needs to change necessarily, because perhaps you were wrong. Yes.
Because I see Patriot as exactly the same as Ryan is.
Yeah, there's a piece of paper. There's a piece of paper between them. That's how close they ideologically are. There's a literal piece of paper between them. And the thing is like, this is what I keep trying to show Misfit Patriot, is like, Ryan is a typical leftist. He's not like some ridiculously unorthodox, highly educated leftist. He's a very typified leftist in his views, beliefs, things like this. He's a little bit more left than Destiny and a little less left than Bosch. Okay, that is the case. He's not a bread tuber, but he's a bit more on the leftist side than a guy like Destiny, who would be more of a he's left of center, a little more like neoliberalism than a guy like Ryan. Ryan would be a good representation of the types of people you're going to find at MSNBC and things like this that are going to fucking weaponize this like you can't imagine, bro.
Yes.
I guess we'll find out.
I'd be radical coder. Thanks, Andrew.
The same way, just to finish.
See, the thing is, Ryan's like, I actually do understand your ideology and understand ideologies. And one thing you can't take away from me is I take my time to make sure I do.
I wrote this all down. See, it's no different than me as a gay person that fought for over 30 years just to be able to have the same rights as everybody else. And
yeah, I mean, that's too bad.
Hold on.
That's too bad.
And then adding cis to the front of my name and othering me from the group that I helped fight for. It's exactly the same thing. When you say woke right, it's the same thing as calling the gay dude a cis male. F you fracking losers. I am so sick of you people doing this mental masturbation and fucking my life up with your nonsense. That I gotta get emails while I'm at work saying, oh, we have to do the gay pride. Nah, bitch, leave that shit the fuck out of my workplace.
So Andrew still wants to take your right to marry.
Well, hang on, but actually he's making what he's saying, if you listen to what he's saying that in a way he's culpable for what happened with the trans movement because of the fact that he fought for this type of egalitarianism, and then the slippery slope, he hit it with a fucking nosedive and now is reevaluating the ideology. What he's saying to Misfit Patriot is, you could easily find yourself in the same situation here, but you can avoid it right now by simply walking away from it, which is actually a really good fucking analysis. It's a really good analysis.
I don't think they give a fuck. They don't give a fuck about us. Just like Ryan said when I talked to him on his channel and my channel, he doesn't give a fuck about Garcia. He gives a fuck about him. He doesn't care what the fucking aftermath of his actions are. He just goes around running his dumb fucking cunt mouth, ruining people's fucking lives, and then going, oh, well, that's just my feelings. He doesn't take any positions on fucking nothing. He just goes, I feel. You're a fucking loser, coward. Coward. No, I'm angry because I had to fight this fucking fight.
I'm glad my analysis was accurate.
Let me ask another question.
Panel reset shortly. Evan Lord with the Big Five said the Misfit Patriot is the Lukid? Benjamin
Netanyahu's.
Thank you. Political party in Israel. Woke right. Anyway, I hope everyone had a wonderful Mother's Day.
Please let me respond to the slander that was just thrown at me. Like that was absolutely dastardly. So what I said when it comes to Kilmar Abrego Garcia,
hold on,
you fucking loser, cocksucker.
Stop.
10th man.
Okay, that's what we'll
You're
do.
gay!
We'll do a little speed date. I'll just put everyone backstage
Real
for
quick,
just a moment and let these two kind of duke it out. Guys, get your testosterone rumbling if you have any left.
So 10th
What's
man,
up, tiny dick?
perfectly calm down. You just said your spiel. Okay, I have been perfectly clear that my concern is the same as the Supreme Court's concern, which is that Kilmar Abrego Garcia's return should be facilitated, not so he can run around and grape and kill people, which he's never been accused of doing, either of those things, first of all. But second of all, so that he can have a hearing, and if Trump is so confident that Kilmar is a member of MS-13, if he has the letters MS and 13 on his fucking fingers like Donald Trump thinks he does, then it should be really easy to settle this in a hearing.
Am I a cis male, yes or no?
And when you
Am
say
I a cis male, yes or no?
when you say, I'm almost done. When you say that I only care about my rights, it's not just my rights. I care about the rights of American citizens, which the Supreme Court
No, you
also acknowledges.
No, you don't care about the aftermath of your actions. Am I a cis male? Blah, blah, blah. We all heard your shit before, brah. Am I a cis male, yes or no? Am I a cis male or am I just a man?
Used to deport Kilmar illegally could also be used to deport American citizens. Now
You're dancing. Am I a cis male or just a man?
You are a cis male.
No, I'm fucking not. And there, you
And
just
man.
proved my point. You're some professed
awesome,
straight
dude. I don't
dude
care.
going around telling the gay dude what he is. You're a fag basher is what the fuck you are. Fuck you, you
Yeah, so Andrew is the one who actually wants
All right.
to make it
no
illegal for you
words.
to be gay,
No,
right?
no words. Okay. We know better than that, 10th man. We
I
know
can-
that.
I could hear him all the way in my bathroom, 40 feet away.
Yeah,
you
so
know-
could I. I went to take a little tinkle break too, and that's what
Well,
I came
I'm
back
such a
to.
homophobe.
Wait,
What was
hold
the-
on.
what was the
no-no?
I have to,
Was
I have
there
to
no-no
clarify
word?
something. Did Ryan just admit that that he reduces gayness to having butt sex?
No.
Well,
Yes, you did, bro.
Yeah, you
yes,
did.
you did.
You
Okay,
said
walk me
verbatim
through
that
that.
Andrew wants to make him like being gay illegal. Andrew specifically wants sodomy laws. He doesn't want, people to exist who are gay. Like being gay itself, Andrew's never advocated for that. So necessarily that's an admission that gayness is
Oh.
equivalent to butt sex.
Well, I was talking about gay marriage, actually, is what I was referring to. But yeah, it's also true that Andrew is very concerned about who has butt sex, and that's also weird. Yeah.
No, well,
no.
Andrew's literally never advocated for making gay marriage illegal. He's advocated for
That's not true. I'm pretty sure he said that to my face multiple times.
Okay, well, I
Doesn't
mean,
think
Andrew's
he should
here,
be
so
allowed
he
to
can
get
clarify the
Multiple
position.
times.
Andrew, do you think gay people should be allowed to get married?
From state marriage, I think we should eliminate state marriage altogether.
Yeah, so that's not making it illegal.
No, it is actually.
Why isn't there a
No, it
federal?
isn't.
No, well,
there a
no,
federal-
no. If
It's a
churches,
federal
if churches, listen, if churches are
Under the
willing,
sign.
if churches are willing to marry gays, right, they can do so. I just don't have to recognize the marriage as being valid.
Look, I know you guys
Yeah,
really want
that's,
to talk
that's
about
radically
But I
different
think
than
you're
gays and
objecting to
whatnot, but,
something. You're
maybe
objecting
should-
to something that doesn't even need to be objected to in the first
Oh,
place.
hey, it's
though.
a doc.
Like, hey, what's up, Adam? How are you, buddy?
Let me
Doing very bad now that you've joined.
let me take a moment to talk to the people on my side real quick. I'm going to shut down the tomato side, and we're shifting over to the gauntlet. So the link is pinned if you want to go ahead and start moving now. Otherwise, here in 2 minutes, when I shut it down, it will automatically raid you over. And let me get back to a couple super chats real quick, just because these people want to be heard. Oops, I lost my place.
But they're not
Okay.
super chatting over here, so they don't deserve any platform. It's scumbaggery, 100%
True.
scumbaggery. Yes.
They should be on the Crucible or something by now.
Sarcastic warlocking with Big Five. Misfit cries out in pain, even as
As
he's
he
doing
fists
that.
The dumbest thing possible that ever took hold that was like somebody put me like I was hungover, sleeping on some like laundry, and I took a picture and I was naked, and I go, I'm hungover and you can see my bum, and that's on Facebook, and somebody put it on a gay dating app and wrote "fist me," right? And the fact that all these people use it against me, is funny because
Are
on
you
its
proud of it?
face, hold on, on its face, it's ridiculous, right? Because it's like, who would make that profile? I don't know. Maybe is there a gay
a
person in here?
troll.
You would make it if you were gay.
Well,
you know what?
No,
Andrew has to tell you about Axiom.
I don't know.
to
I'm
answer
not.
that question.
Hold on. I'm not gay. I'm actually asking a serious question. I'm not gay.
Otherwise,
Would somebody actually write "fist me" like as like a profile?
Where do you care what gay people think?
Yes, they
I don't give a
would.
shit, right?
Yeah.
Yes, they
I
would.
guess because
I
my-
never heard that it's not actually you that I've been talking to. For
I don't know if that's a reading into it thing.
Yeah.
Look,
Just,
all
I don't
have
know.
to
I could be
say-
mistaken.
Look, all I have to say on this is I don't know why Mr. Patriot's denying being gay when he admits there's a profile of himself on a gay dating app which says "fist me." That's
that
clear
I know-
evidence that he's
You
gay.
can
Yeah, that I've never
totally.
heard.
I could, Adam. I could create one with your picture put in place.
And then, yeah, that's what
It
I'm
was
saying.
So
I
easy.
got
You
to ask
could.
though, did you
What I'm
have
saying
like a
is-
measuring
And
tape out or
if you
anything?
did, that would
Are
be
you
evidence for
seeing-
me being gay.
Hold on. Let me
Are you
explain.
seeing
this.
how big it is?
Let me explain.
Well, we don't really need more evidence.
Let me explain this, right? If I was trying to slander somebody, I would have put them on a gay dating app with just a normal like profile. Like that's what I mean. It's like they went so over the top.
Would your profile say woke, right?
Yeah, no, it would
That'd
just
be gay.
like I guess I would just put me on. If I was gonna try to do what they did to me, I would just put myself on a gay thing and be like looking for a hookup. But they went so far where it was
You
like
think about this a lot, don't you?
no, like I get hit with it. Look at it's in the super chat.
It's on.
protest too
Well,
much.
it's even on. I know somebody already put it
And
on
the proof is there. It's still on my Facebook. The same picture where I was just hungover, but I looked.
Dusty in a gay dating profile.
Tell Katie I
Yeah.
say hi, Dusty. Good to see you tonight.
It's just a weird thing that took.
Katie
all-
Duck says hi.
And speaking of Duck, just threw 20 in to send you to the back. Enjoy your time backstage.
Duck.
Bring next up Mel. I also have Joe Cool and EOD hanging backstage. And Jason, I threw you back only just for panel squatting for now. We'll bring you back up in a little bit. And I am going to shut down Raging Tomato side and shift everybody over to the Gauntlet. But I wanted to get through a couple more, if you don't mind. Woke right and left is BS. Woke just means to be aware of injustice in the context of modern left and right factions. It makes no sense.
Can I speak to this and then I'm done? I'm actually going to bounce.
Sure.
So first of all, I mean, obviously, this is why I brought up the real systemic measurable outcomes like the healthcare disparities, the school to prison pipeline, education disparities,
Men not getting
cetera,
custody.
and as well as other economic disparities that we can see in the Black community, for example. But so obviously there are real systemic injustices that we can identify. Second of all, I think it's deeply, deeply ironic that in the context of this conversation, 10th Man just did the DARVO thing that I was exactly describing when he accuses me of, I'm not going to say what he called me, but when he accuses me of that by just because I'm using very basic, accurate language like cisgender, which is a neutral, factual descriptor, just meaning someone's identity aligns with their sex at birth. It's not a slur, but he's viewing himself as a victim of this accurate description because he has it. He's
That's
part of the
interesting.
woke right.
Cutter,
But anyway,
a couple questions I have for you, real quick, before you go.
Yeah, please.
One,
I gotta go.
when you
Yeah.
said that there was real measurable institutional things, when we brought up a real measurable one of men not getting custody, you said, well, there was a good reason for that. I wonder, why don't you give the same charitability when it comes to the real measurable things you're talking about that affect the Black community?
Yeah, like the
So there's a
disproportionate
history of laws being specifically instituted to oppress Black people. I don't think those laws exist to oppress.
Well, the same
men.
argument could be made against.
There's
the
a history
definition
of
men.
courts favoring women,
Right.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
custody.
So it's not
this
just
is a
you.
product
So
of,
if you're going to say
this is
that,
a product of the patriarchy itself.
And
This is
real
it was
quick,
illegal
one other
for like
question.
Black people to go to school and white people to
One at a time. Go ahead.
this is about disparate impacts.
One-
You care
one
about
other-
disparate impact, right?
One other question,
Coder.
Ryan, I have for you.
Actually.
You said you sort of gave this definition of woke right as sort of, or wokeness is sort of like feeling that you're being institutionally privileged against. Can you name me one political group when they're not in power that wouldn't be woke based on your definition?
Wait, me?
Yes. Can you name me one
Oh, my
political
definition
group?
of woke was being aware of systemic injustice. I
Okay,
agree
but
with
you
that.
but you said that the woke right is they're woke, right? You're just they claim
Well-
to be aware of systemic injustice, right?
So just to be 100% clear, when I say woke right, I'm kind of I'm identifying what James Lindsay, Misfit, and these people seem to be pointing to, and I'm saying it's funny that they are identifying the thing that I also see as them feigning wokeness, them wearing the aesthetic of wokeness, but pointing to things that are not real systemic injustices and not using the proper lenses to analyze them.
Because you're
And
not
otherwise-
just real quick.
If they looked at the courts through a feminist lens, they'd probably identify the real problems and actually help men and women.
But we can disagree on what's real or not. But if we take away whether it's real or not and just say that they believe that they are victims of systemic injustice, can you name me one political group that's not currently in power that wouldn't meet that definition of woke?
Well, I wouldn't identify it in that way, so I'm not going to really engage with that. But
Okay, so then what you say is, so your argument will be when I actually brought up institutions of systemic injustice, such as men not getting custody as much as women, therefore there's a disparate outcome and it's not equitable. You said, but that one doesn't count.
Well, I agreed with you that it does exist, and I think I actually brought it up when I talked about in my opening statement. But again, we can go.
Yeah, Ryan, this one had brought it up.
Okay, so therefore,
I do gotta go.
Okay,
Rob, we'll talk another time.
That's fine.
I promise. Yeah,
I'll just sum up his
before,
position as he leaves it. Nice talking to you again, Ryan. Take it easy, man. I'll
Yeah,
sum up his
something
position.
like
The problem with this sort of mentality
I
is
love you.
It
I
begs
love
the
you, Ryan.
question, right? It says, well, based on what I believe to be the truth, this is why that term applies or doesn't apply, right? And the problem with that would be you can already see what happens. Well, the systemic injustice that he wants to talk about, those are all real. And the systemic injustices that others want to talk about, those are all fake. And even if they're not fake, well, they exist for a good reason. The problem is this takes the word woke to basically mean nothing, because every group that's not in power at the current time feels that the system is unjust to them, which is why they don't have power. For example, Democrats right now as a whole feel the system is unjust and Trump's abusing the system, et cetera, et cetera. The Republicans will feel the same when Democrats are in charge. And you could take like fractions of groups, like whether it be the progressive left, the sort of neocon right, et cetera, et cetera. Therefore, you've delineated woke to meaning nothing, which is the same problem that Misfit Patriot has with his definition. If your definition lumps in George Washington and Nick Fuentes, it does. And let me explain why.
Why can't woke just mean gay and stupid?
Well, I don't know, because then you would
you want to apply it to right wingers, Misfit Patriot.
Well, some of
It just has to be stupid if it's applying to them.
Right.
They're not gay, they're just stupid.
Yeah, but they would make the argument back to you. They'd be like, that guy's gay and stupid.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So you would be woke right, bro. Right? You see what I mean?
The word means nothing. The only thing the word seeks to do is to provide utility for the left. All it is a power grab. James Lindsay thinks you're woke, dude.
Correct.
James Lindsay thinks you're woke.
And that was part of Lindsay's path to relevancy, wasn't it, Rob?
That's
It's part
exactly
of
right.
It's part of the backlash for his path to relevancy with Peterson, who has been mercilessly attacked by people on the dissident right who don't fucking like his message anymore, because make your bed doesn't apply when we have a bunch of racial consciousness going on anymore. There's other things in this trend now where race is becoming once again a prominent topic, which is going on. Peterson can't engage in it. TPUSA can't engage in it. These guys can't engage in these things. Neither can the Daily Wire, because they can't, right? Because they intellectually are just refuse to engage in these concepts. What happens is they're mercilessly attacked, and it really pisses them off. But they never address it, and so they're going to continue to be mercilessly attacked. But don't pretend to me that this is nothing more than a power grab by them to say it's us and not them. We're the real right, not them. That's bullshit, bro.
Why can't they engage, Andrew? Is it because it would be to their detriment somehow to engage? They don't have a leg to stand on? Why those people?
Well, no, it's because there is right now what is going on is a big push in tribalism. The left, I would argue, has really been pronouncing this movement towards tribalism more than anybody else. And I think that we saw the tipping point with Black Lives Matter, but now what reignited it was what? Was this murder that happened. I would argue it's a murder, but even if it's not, even if you would argue it's not a murder, what happened is because this guy got so much money on the eve of this stabbing, right? Yeah. There was a tit for tat. This is part of a racial tribalism thing which is going on that nobody will fucking address. Because they won't address it, right? This is what we end up with. We're not them. We're not them. We're not them. And it's like, well, look, if they would just address it, we might be in better shape. But Misfit Patriot, look at how he addressed that. He's like, nope, she shouldn't get rewarded because she said a bad word. It's like, but negates to mention the fact that even if she said bad word, she doesn't deserve her whole fucking life and family destroyed.
I understand what you're saying. I have a question for you. I should have asked this in the debate, but it's actually a really important question. Do you agree that the thing that I think is woke right, according to you, is a problem? Like, do you think that like maybe this reactionary thing that we're the hyperfixation on race and I would say the fringe or the far, right?
I'm not a big fan of Juicebergs, and I'm not a big fan. Hang on. Let me finish. And I'm not a big fan of people who make things too overtly racial.
Sure.
But on the other hand, these are legitimate political topics with a war going on in the Middle East and Israel, which is demanding American attention, and what's going on with racial politics in the U.S.
Okay.
They have got to be addressed. And even if you disagree with the dissident right or what you would consider reactionaries, nobody's talking about it except them.
Okay.
And so because of that, it's like, well, you kind of got to take the goods with the bads a little bit.
I have a serious question because I really honestly want to get your take on this. If you were in my position, right, whether you agree or not, if you were in my position and you were identifying what you think is a problem on the right, what would be your solution?
I would engage directly. Okay, I would engage directly. And I would say, here's what my specific issues with you are. I would try to convince them away. But here's the thing I won't do. I think the demonization of the right wing, including the dissident right wing, is generally bad for a party to give leftists any fucking ammunition. Can I publicly say that I disagree with some of the positions of gripers and people like this? Sure. But I can also publicly say there's some positions I agree with.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about the dissident right, we're talking about the right in general. It's not a great idea for us to not collectivize when our fucking enemies do. It's a bad idea.
Real quick. You agree?
Let him respond.
You agree that the right, the woke left. I'm sorry, the left. You agree that the woke left, right, had a problem in their party where they allowed the radicals of their party to take over, and it's why they lost. I think
that's why they won.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think so. Here's what I think. I think that if Bernie Sanders had not been pushed out by the fucking DNC because they wanted to maintain power, that the radical leftist message would have been extremely popular. Yep. I think people make this huge fucking mistake that radical leftism would not be popular if it was not gatekept. I think it would be, because I can look at the entire fucking West and see it firsthand. So it's like, no, I don't think so. I think that the centrist left, in many ways, are the biggest boon to the right because they gatekeep. Because radical leftists, they actually are very popular in many parts of the world in the West. And I think you better be real careful with that, man, because we watched what happened with Bernie Sanders when the Clinton campaign and they fucking sabotaged him because Bernie Sanders was wiping the fucking floor with this shit.
Well, anytime you martyr somebody, they gain more popularity. That's kind of how.
No, it's the ideology. I'm telling you, the ideology itself of you can't compete with fucking Santa Claus. How many times did Michael Savage and Rush Limbaugh have to tell you this? If you can stay home with a UBI, universal fucking basic income, have all your health care paid for, never have to fucking work, it's a very appealing message to younger generations. And who the fuck do they target, bro? Mm-hmm. Who do they target? Tell me, Misfit, who do they target? Bernie Sanders is a 90-year-old man. It's fucking 19-year-old showing up to his events, bro.
Yeah, no, I understand your argument. Go ahead.
Your question to Andrew, what would you do? It's actually not a hypothetical, because a lot of what you're talking about, it's not necessarily the political ideology, it's the tactics that are used. I don't know if you knew this, and far be it from me to speak about Andrew, but he actually, some of the very people that you think are engaged in bad tactics against you, previously were engaged in these sort of tactics with Andrew. And you know what he did? Directly talk to them.
Yeah,
that's what he did. He didn't say you're woke right, go pound sand, which would escalate the situation.
Well, no, see, that's the thing. I talk to these people. I highlight them all day, every day. I've asked for debates.
That's not fucking talking to them.
Hold on. I've asked for debates. I've tried to get these people.
Who have you asked for debates?
Byron Gaines, Nick Fuentes, Jake Shields.
But these guys, if you're going to ask people who are heads of massive political movements, which Fuentes is, You can talk all this. He is the head of a massive political movement. Myron Gaines, who's right now doing college tours all over the United States because of how popular he is. You don't have the requisite clout. But what you could start doing is talking to people who are adjacent to them, and hang on, in order to at least give yourself legitimacy.
Well, I mean, this is what I
have a recommendation that goes to Andrew's point.
Go ahead.
One person who has been consistently referred to as woke right the entire time that James Lindsay has been going on the Spurgfest is Orrin McIntyre. You can reach out to Benjamin Boyce. He has a show where he's hosted debates with Orrin McIntyre before. If you reach out to him, he'll probably do it live.
What I'm
saying, this is a specific person. Now we can see if you'll actually follow through with what you're talking about, because that's somebody who has always been referred to as woke right by these types. He is open to debate. You just have to ask Benjamin Boyce or Orrin.
Okay, yeah. Well, shoot.
You want me to?
Orrin's not going to come on this channel. No offense, Sarah.
I'm debating.
I don't think he will.
You, Adam. Have a good night.
So Andrew just made the claim that I don't have the requisite clout. I don't care about clout, but these people talk about me all the time. They engage with me all the time. I'm talking to Andrew right now. I just did a panel with Sarah.
Yeah, but they don't want to listen.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're new. I know that you're a bit new to this space. I'm an exception in this fact, and so is like guys like Rob Noor. I'll talk to people who are not like fucking a million times bigger than me or on par with me or whatever. I'll talk to them and I will engage with them and I'll debate with them. I go on people's channels like Sarah. If they're anons on the fucking internet, yeah, often that's the case. But before you talk shit, Melanie, how many times have I debated you? Have I charged you fucking anything?
No, you've never done a 1v1.
Okay. No. Okay.
Also,
well, here's the
just to be
thing.
clear,
You've never actually, hang on. You've never actually requested one that I'm aware of. When?
Multiple times.
When?
Including in Sarah's side chat.
When?
And in DMs with you.
When? Show me the DMs. Let's look at the DMs. But I've engaged with you in debates. I've engaged with you in debates multiple. Hang on. Shut up, Melanie. I've engaged with you. Okay, well, anyway, so I'm going to finish real quick, and then you can get in. But the thing is, I've engaged with you, Melanie, multiple fucking times, including in elongated debates on this very channel. That's bullshit. I engage with people all over the internet because I'm not going to take my fucking time for people who have 2 followers to do long form debates with everybody who requests. I get hundreds of fucking debate requests. That's a ridiculous standard to put on me. That's 1. 2, I'm here right now engaging. And 3, the most important aspect here is like, I'm an exception in that arena, that I do that often with many, many, many people. There's no reason, honestly, and this is no offense to Sarah, there's no reason actually or incentive I have to be on this channel. Sarah gains a ton. I gain basically nothing. That's the truth. Okay.
Keep chasing your clout, Sarah. Don't believe him.
Yeah, right. I mean, I gain basically nothing. But the thing is I enjoy working with creators who are smaller. I wish I'd had those opportunities when I was a smaller creator in a big way. I didn't get them. I had to claw my way up the opposite way. Hang on, let me finish.
Go ahead.
So my point is that like these guys are not in the same fucking league. They are way, way up there in that league. What incentive? Tell me what incentive they have to debate with you if you won't even engage with people who are adjacent to them in this topic.
So that's what I'm saying is you obviously don't follow what I've been doing. I have a space where I've been talking about this with other people. These people are putting me on. Nick Fuentes has talked about me like fucking, I don't know, 5 or 6 times.
Yeah, to clown on you.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying, but what I'm saying is when you make the assertion that I don't have the clout, these people obviously know who I am. They obviously disagree with me. They're obviously coming back and forth.
Yeah, but they don't want to legitimize you.
But they don't.
Also, you're acting like they're not debaters, Andrew. Are these people debaters?
Hold on. Let me finish.
Do they debate?
Andrew,
not really.
Andrew, you have what? 90.
Bullshit.
Andrew, you have 90,000 followers on X. I have 100,000 on Instagram. I have
bro. Listen. I'm just so that you know, so that you understand. Follower count.
I know, but I'm
totally fucking irrelevant. And here's why. What matters is live engagement. What matters is that when I go live on YouTube for a debate, there's 7,000 fucking people there. That's the metrics that you follow. When Fuentes goes live, he's got on Rumble, he's got 25 fucking thousand live viewers. You're not in the same fucking league. You're not in the same league as guys who go on like Myron Gaines, who had for a year straight, the #1 super chatted channel in the fucking world. You're not in the same pedigree as those guys. You have to, and this is the truth.
Are we just taking for granted
shut
that
up,
there is a
bro.
right now?
You have to do what's called paying your dues in this space.
Right.
Otherwise, what incentive do they have?
Sure.
So we're basically just taking for granted, though, that there is a
that's what I'm
woke
doing right now.
By the way, like this isn't a debate anymore, is it?
No, we're not debating right now. We're having a
We
conversation.
debated for the first 2 hours. Now we're
Now we're having a conversation about this. Yeah.
Well, interestingly enough, woke is just a word for politically inept people who actually don't know what egalitarian is. Now, Andrew,
Well,
I know
actually,
you know what egalitarian
woke is a
is.
term
And
that
so my
refers
question
to
for you
waking
is,
up, like
what
in
is
the
the
morning,
difference
when
between
the morning star
egalitarian
rises,
and
which
Why,
lights
Adam?
Lucifer,
Why,
according
Adam?
to-
Why, Adam? You do
Because
this
Melanie
every
annoys me.
fucking time. I don't
Here,
care.
let me ask a
It's
clarifying
the
question,
rule of
Melanie,
the
after.
panel to not interrupt and to let people talk, and you just irritate me every fucking time when you do that. Ugh. All right.
I want to hear Mel's question.
Chaos.
I want to hear Mel's
Queen comes
question.
in. Chaos Queen comes in with a big 5, says Happy Mother's Day, and I will give it back to you, Mel, here in a moment. Thank you so much, Chaos Queen. Emotional Damage says, I don't think Misfit Dummy understands the definition of definition. He thinks ignorance is a virtue. This guy needs to read, I mean, a lot.
What is the
He also-
definition of definition? Can somebody define it?
Hold on, let me look it up right quick.
He also follows up to say the actual problem America faces today is that people like this Misfit Dummy think he's smarter than the general population. Absolute
I'm
nonsense.
fucking retarded. Promise.
I don't think Emotional Damage likes you. False equivalency, hyperfixation, and woke right. I will say he's got a hyperfixation on you at this moment. So smart, man. Anything else your brain can add to this
Oh,
conversation?
I know who this is. I know who this is. Emotional Damage. This is my stalker. I've had this stalker since 2021. Emotional Damage. Yeah. They don't like me.
I've been
Fair
stalking
enough.
Andrew
Need a
since
million more
2021
stalkers
too.
before you can talk to
Obviously.
Fuentes, though.
Trib1 with the big 5. Happy Mother's Day, Sarah. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms. Societies live, breathe, and thrive through the caring mothers win moms. Thank you. Airborne Animal says the Misfit Patriot is a crab pulling down other crabs. He's trying to make himself look good by making others on the right look bad.
I like it.
The difference is I intentionally make myself look bad to highlight how bad we all look. Right, that's basically my whole entire page where I'm like, I jump into the arena and I go, we realize
you want to make yourself look good.
No, we all look ridiculous, right? Like,
It doesn't read as a parody, though, bro.
The whole thing is right with the bullshit clapback culture on Twitter. Like Andrew said, that's not real. That's not real debate. What's happening right now is real life, real conversations. Right? It's adjacent.
Hold on. How would you make a contrast if you just lumped yourself in with the other people?
What do you mean?
How would you contrast yourself against them being bad?
So it's very easy, right? A bunch of people are doing a bunch of ridiculous shit, right? You can either shout at them from the outside going, you guys look ridiculous, or you can jump in the arena and get as ridiculous, get in the mud, get in the arena with them, and then everybody in the arena still looks ridiculous, but only one person, me, is looking at the crowd going, see how ridiculous this looks?
And that shit you just said sounds
I'm gonna tell you
ridiculous as
something.
fuck.
You're gonna act like them.
Wait, this
Yeah,
is
it's
really
called
important.
Taskmaster
Patriot.
strategy. Yeah, go
If
ahead.
you want to
And
debate
that's-
some of the big people, you can't just start shit posting all the time. You gotta at least pretend to be serious
Don't tell
because
me
they
what I
look
can
at
and
you.
can't do.
Everyone in there that's bigger looks at you and thinks this is just a waste of my time. This is
Yeah,
someone who's
but-
just gonna waste my time.
But they're
If you
all
want to
fucked
debate
up.
the Irons, if you want to debate the Knicks, if you take it seriously when you're going against people like this, your chances are gonna fucking skyrocket.
Yeah, if I'm
telling you this-
outrageous,
Wait, let me explain. I'm telling you this as someone who gets the debates with these people with fucking negative followers because I've done this with Andrew for fucking years.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, and like respectfully, I disagree.
To be
because-
fair,
because-
actually, anytime I try to get a debate for Corinth, nobody wants to take it on.
Hold on, can
But
I?
it's because they know who I am, Sarah.
No,
That's
it's
why.
because and every response is he's fucking annoying as shit.
Yeah.
No.
Yes, that's why it's evidence.
Here's the thing, right?
Valid.
Like I said to Andrew earlier, right? I respect what he does, right? Because I do the same thing. When you get somebody in an emotional state and you trigger, like the reason Andrew is debating me, whether he admits it or not, is because I triggered him, right? But I did it in a way where he was like, this motherfucker, why don't we get into a
Do
fucking
you think it's possible he just wanted to clown on you?
Hold on. Yeah, but that's the thing. That's the fucking thing. If they want to clown me. And now what happened today, right? We did 2 debates. The first one was very, argumentative. This one was very, I think it was insightful. And I think that we had a good conversation.
Yeah, but that's a distinction in image and behavior from you. So the thing is like, if it is the case, right? Like, I know Myron Gaines real well. That fucking guy will happily debate a person who he thinks is a fucking serious individual in the space. That guy like that's not going to consider you that. Now, you might consider Myron to be a joke or this or that, but I'm telling the guy has a massive network. He's real smart. He's not nearly as dumb as people seem to think he is. I don't know where they fucking come up with this shit.
Well, because he's on a Klan hood and doing...
Yeah, because he's clowning. He's clowning. Now, you may not like his form of clowning, right?
I don't know.
But I don't give a shit if this guy fucking likes to fucking clown and do that. I don't care. That's not important to me. What's important to me is that he's putting himself out in front of audiences of thousands to be criticized. He's doing a debate tour with every college student, every professor who comes up. He's taking all numbers. But he worked his way up to that with an entertaining show, with having people on who are extremely controversial, taking their ideologies on. You have not done that yet. And so for you to think that you're just going to entice these guys into that, again, I'm an exception where I take on debates from all sorts of people when I find it to be perhaps interesting or a topic that I care about or things like this. I don't care so much about that. But that's not very many people in the YouTube space. Rob Nor will tell you, so everybody's in this space.
Andrew, I think that anyone would agree that my name has gotten a lot of recognition for doing the exact same thing that you just described that Myron does, right? Where he
That's not what you're known for, bro.
Well, it doesn't matter. It's people know my fucking name because I come in and I push the Overton window and I fucking come into a space where I'm being dragged, but I'm doing it just like with a...
Yeah, but do you know what a lolcow is? Do you know, hang on, do you know what a lolcow is?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's a lolcow or not, right? Because
it fucking matters because dude,
yes, are you
I can't really
work, or
I can't describe the idea of online politics quickly to you, but what I'm telling you is that what people see in the perception, you eventually you're going to have to you're going to have to contend with that.
Wow, it's so hard to describe something being a fucking clout game. Now, can I please make a statement on this?
Rewind it, Melanie, because you were cut off.
Yeah, go ahead, Mel.
So I think woke is just a word for politically inept people. The word that's always existed for this the whole time is egalitarian. When we try to take something that's already stupid to describe the left and use it to describe the right, it's just compounding stupidity. And here's an idea. If you don't want to get confused about words, use the words that already exist to describe them and stop appropriating it from other cultures.
Define egalitarian.
Wanting equality for all individuals.
Well, didn't we just point out, didn't we just have a whole debate that showed that woke has more to do with equity and not equality?
You're up. This is the perfect question.
No, it's actually equality, by the way, that woke is going for. Yeah,
no,
you can get confused about things, but at the end of the day, the left wants equality, not just equity.
Well, what's unequal for leftists?
For example, systemic discrimination along the lines of
how do you know?
That's always the first one.
There's a really important prior question that we're missing. Melanie, are you talking about telic or deontic egalitarianism?
No.
What?
You talking about telic or deontic egalitarianism?
I'm not gonna lie.
You don't know. You have no idea what he even just said, do you?
Yeah, that's okay to not know what things are sometimes.
I mean, so these are very principled in talking about egalitarian theories. This is something that Parfit went into in his lecture on prioritarianism. This is one of the major examples of the two worlds case. Are we talking about the issues that anti-egalitarianism faces, things that are unequal faces, or are we talking about inequalities in and of themselves are bad?
Probably inequalities in and of themselves are bad.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is something
like if you're going to talk about the left, that is the stance that the left in general takes.
Let me ask you a question.
So
real quick.
Here's the question. Here's a question. Melanie, are there inequalities between us and deers in wealth? Sure. Is that in and of itself bad? Because there's an inequality existing.
But you're asking me about my personal. You're asking me about my personal prescriptions. When the left as a whole talks about equalities, you see a picture painted, and that is equalities are generally bad. Yes.
Oh no! And when the left talks about it, they talk about the other version of egalitarianism. They talk about the kind where we're talking about the relations to each other. This is widely accepted in all cases, which is why I asked you your personal opinion, because you're not representative of the left in this.
Not at all.
Bad read on what the left brought.
That's exactly. I mean, Corinth makes it exactly. I mean, his case is exact here. So the left is not talking about you're tall. You're taller than me, therefore we're unequal. That's insane.
So I was being talked to, and I said specifically systemic. So you might have already forgotten that, but I'm just going to remind you, this only applies within systemic inequalities.
Let me ask you this. How would you know? Let's say I'm curious about systemic inequalities. What are some of the things I would look for to know if there is a systemic inequality?
Guys, by the way, I got to get out of here. Thank you so much for all of your time.
Andrew,
you all have a wonderful night.
I wanted to ask you a question. Sarah, is it okay if I can ask Andrew a question?
Yeah, what is it?
Hello, Andrew. My name is Varun. I've been following many events all around the world. I just wanted to ask you, many historians have always discovered many ugly truths about multiculturalism and multiracial societies. They've come to the conclusion that it doesn't work. Despite they having proved with many examples that it doesn't work, why do people always try to implement it? Like whether it's the left or anyone, they try to create this situation whereby somehow or the other they want to make it work, but it doesn't work, Andrew Wilson. So can you give me the answer for that?
I've always considered, when I reduce the left's position on this, that they're perfectly happy to have a second category slave class citizenry in order to boost economic output is generally what I'm able to reduce this position to.
Like you want for women?
Well, no, they wouldn't be second class, would they?
No, they're definitely second class. You literally
how are they second class?
That they don't have, that they shouldn't be telling men what to think. That's second class.
Yeah. So wait a second. So let's back up. Do you disagree with me that there are specific roles for men and women in society, correct?
No, that's more applicable during agrarian times, but nowadays, like women can do the same things that men can do and vice versa.
But they can't, though.
No, they can't.
So what does having a penis prevent? How does having a penis only allow a man, for example, to run a nuclear bomb weapons facility?
Yeah, so I mean, let's dive into this.
You need to stick your dick in something to make the bomb go boom?
Yeah, so again, let's dive into this. Can women be 100%, like, let's just say for a second, that you had a 100% female army? How would it fare against a 100%
That's
male?
Not what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know, but we're going to get to it so that we can reduce the position.
I was talking about necessity.
Yeah, I know. That's great. So anyway, so back
you're not really debating.
Yeah, I'm really debating your point, but
no, because I was talking about necessity.
I'll tell you what. When I'm allowed to ask,
let him finish.
When I'm allowed to ask a question, right? Then please answer it.
I started.
Let's say,
yeah.
So anyway, yeah. Well, can I ask it? Can I ask it?
That it's a non sequitur.
Yeah, it's not a non sequitur. I'm saying that there are specific roles when it comes to security that men and women have, and I'm going to demonstrate it to you using your own logic. If you just will allow me to ask you a couple of questions. If it is the case that there's two countries and both of them have roughly the same amount of technology, one has a male army, the other one has an all-female army. Which one do you think has the heavy advantage?
See, Andrew, I don't think you're being good faith right now.
Can you answer the question?
I think you're going to have me answer your
Can you answer the question? Can you answer the question?
The reality of it
Can you answer the fucking question?
This has nothing to do with anything I said.
Can you answer the question?
Can you ask
Can you answer the question? Can you answer?
You ask a sequitur question.
Answer the fucking question.
You're
not answering the question.
Mel, it's either yes or no, or guys or girls or whatever.
Yes, the answer is yes to an or the answer is all female armies are not feasible, but that's a non sequitur to what.
Are all male armies feasible?
Yes.
Okay, great. So then it sounds like you would have an advantage, a massive advantage, if men are in charge of the security of a nation, right?
So we don't need that nowadays because
we need it.
Armies do not only do QCQ, they use machinery and weaponry.
Well, that would be CQC, not QCQ, you fucking idiot. But yeah, even if we're talking about CQC, which is close quarters combat, I would have to just point out, have you ever heard of the Ukrainian-Russian war?
Yeah, did they not use drones?
They mostly use frontline combat and trench warfare.
So if you had an all-female drone pilot army, would there be anything wrong with that?
Yeah.
No,
Actually, there still would
no,
be.
there wouldn't.
Yes, there would. You would still have the advantage in men because men can still load the carriers much better, much more efficiently. They can actually pilot it better, and if the drones get shot down, they can still fight more effectively in the field.
So let's say you need more women to do something. Is there not more women to do something?
Yeah. What would we need more women to do?
Like load drones into a carrier takes two.
No. Loading drones into a carrier is going to be more effective with men than women, right?
Yeah, but I'm not arguing about effectiveness. I'm arguing.
Yeah, but that's the thing.
Non sequitur.
If you say there's no such thing as gender roles, but then you say one gender is way more effective at something else than another, why is it that we would not put the most effective inside of that role? That makes no sense, right?
Andrew, I'm gonna need you to demonstrate to me that you know what a non sequitur is at this point.
Yeah, non sequitur would be something which does not pertain to the point of whatever it is we're arguing or discussing.
I think he was just saying, man,
cannot be non sequiturs, by the way.
He was just saying women can do the same shit men do. That's all. We're off to who does it better right now. I think he's just saying that women can do the same shit.
But here's the thing. What's interesting is that when you point out the exception, you're pointing out the rule. Otherwise, there can't be an exception, right?
No, the exception is not always the rule. That is not.
Oh, so if you point to the exception, what are they exception from?
An exception, like using extremes to make your point when it doesn't.
Yeah, what are they the exception from? What are they the exception from?
They're an exception.
The rule. They're the exception from the rule, or they couldn't be accepted from the rule. You fucking dolt.
The society that mixes gender roles and doesn't make
the society doesn't mix gender roles. Actually, if we look at the jobs of women versus men, the gender roles actually seem to be extraordinarily clear.
Compared to the 1900s.
Yes, in fact, yes. If you look at the top jobs, hang on. If you look at all the top jobs of women from the year 1900 right now, the same fucking jobs. Look at it.
1800s, by the way.
By the 1800s, same jobs in the 1700s. You fucking idiot.
Nope. Actually,
yes.
The Industrial Revolution saw way more women in the workforce than ever before.
Yes, doing the same fucking job. Doing the fucking same. Okay, what job distinctions are there from the year? Yeah, from the year 1800 to right now. What do you think the top job markets for women were in 1800s versus now? What do you think they were?
Same. Housemaking.
No, jobs, dolt. Jobs.
Teacher.
Nursing.
No,
same fucking shit. It's the same shit.
Raising children is a job, Andrew.
And they were doing that in the 1800s too.
I've got a few.
Fucking idiot. All right, I got to get going though. I'll see you guys later.
See ya, Andrew. I've got 3 back-to-backs for you, Misfit. The Single Dads Club says, I think that people like Misfit Patriot and more people like them are looking for the next ideology to grift on. So disingenuous, you're making shit up. And then he follows it up. There's more, so you can respond all in one. Misfit Patriot doesn't believe a word he's saying. People try to look for the new argument to gain a grift and seeing what sticks. It's really disingenuous. He's piggybacking off some new idea. You're a scam artist. And then he follows up one more time to say that you are a flipping grifter. You are trying to grasp straws, trying to throw something at the wall and see what sticks. Woke right, really crazy. Explain to an exact T what the heck woke right is.
There's truth in all of that shit.
Hold on, Joe. It's for Misfit.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I wasn't finna answer. I'm interested though. Misfit,
you're muted, buddy. I think you're muted, Misfit.
There we go. I had to turn my lights on, so I didn't want to yell Alexa in the camera. Okay, so this is going to be my swan song. Grift, right? What is a grift? A grift is a con or a scheme in order to trick people into something that you're not, right? Everything that I do is not a grift. I do my real job. I have a real job. I don't do this for money, right? So
fame. What about for fame?
No, I don't do it for. I do it as a hobby. I talk about this all the time. But either way, all right. So the argument from Single Dads Club. I'm jumping on a new thing. I'm jumping on a new thing that I started. Well, like I said, I didn't necessarily start it, but I'm jumping on a thing that was started and recognized by 3 different groups of that I've counted right around the same time in 2021, which is the woke right movement. The woke right movement, as I explained in the debate, as I've explained several times, right? It's something that people, whether you agree or not, people recognized it as woke. Otherwise, we all wouldn't have 3 separate individuals, wouldn't have come to the same conclusion on what it is, right? What we're seeing is identity politics. We're seeing a victim mentality. We're seeing oppressor oppressed, right? A victim mentality. We're seeing a big movement in cancel culture, and it's coming from a small, I would say, started off small, is growing larger demographic of the fringe right, alt right. So
you would really use. Oh, sorry.
hold on.
Can I ask you something?
Let me just. I will stay for a few seconds after I finish, but I just want to get this up because I'm about to leave, and I just want to make my point very clear.
My bad.
The notion that I am a grifter, when, as Andrew said, right, like I am not gaining clout. I am a lolcow. I still don't know what the full difference.
It's fame, bro. You love it.
No. I mean,
it
listen,
means you're a source of laughs.
I like engaging. I use social media for its original intended purposes, to be social, right? To engage with other people. I think that it's a wonderful tool where you can engage across the world with others, right? So I like it. But again, I have a fucking big boy job, right? I do a 9 to 5 where I own my own company and I build bathrooms. To somehow imply that I'm a grifter doing this for any other reason, I've turned down opportunities to work with media companies. I've turned down opportunities to work with influencer companies. I've turned down all this.
Because you're passionate about it. You're impassioned. It's from the heart.
That's what I'm trying to say, right? So if you
the woke right is such a big problem, you got to come out here and make a big fuss about it.
I think it is. I think that the reason why I talk about things is because I see an issue, I address an issue, and I push the Overton window and I address it very aggressively. So calling me a grifter is out. Calling it a new thing is out. So what's left? What's the argument?
The grifter is still in. You put yourself, the ego, you put yourself on par with the big guys. Excuse me. You put yourself on par with the big guys. I should be up there. You ain't putting in a fucking the work on the little fellas or the adjacent fellas that Drew talked about.
You think I've been doing this for what, 6 months? I've been doing this for years. Like you guys may have.
You haven't been doing this woke right 50 years because you're bad at it.
No, but
I've known about Misfit for a while. He has been around for a while.
I've been around for a very long time. I actually was predominant. You can Google my name, right? The entire left tried to cancel me. They made change.org websites about me.
I'm just arguing the woke right part right now. Woke right.
Well, I went after the woke left because I saw the woke left as a problem. When Donald Trump was running for office, I saw we have a problem where we have to take down the radical left movement, which is gaining popularity and controlling the messaging against Trump. I fought them. Now I see another problem, which I think is a woke right, where I think that it's a psyop that is designed to divide the party. And I think that if we're going to divide it, you need to name it and tame it. And that's what I'm going after now.
You've divided everybody from it, like the whole party. You've divided everyone from you.
You guys are blaming me like the party would not be divided if I didn't chime in on it.
You know, you're giving this guy like a lot of room to like. But by defending yourself, you're kind of making his claims seem more valid.
No, when super chats come in, we allow the room to respond to it. Go ahead.
I'm sure Misfit gets that too. I'm sure he's not upset. Sarah's making some money here. Yeah,
I'm not. Dude, I love the. So I think that Sarah would. I don't know how much money Sarah's made, but I know it's hundreds of dollars. And I think that the vast majority of super chats where people are donating are asking.
I never said anything about the money. I said
Shut up,
this guy a lot of time.
Please let him talk, please.
Does everybody in this panel agree? You have a set of eyes, right? Every time that she's posted, somebody paying money is asking the vast majority is asking me a question.
Wouldn't argue that.
I'm not making money off of this, right? I make $0 off of this.
Horrible point.
I make $0, right? It's not a grift. Like I said, the only payout I get is from my ex creator, whatever. It's couple hundred.
You just come up here to say nothing for no reason?
No, what I'm saying is implying that I'm a grifter when there's no incentive for me to grift is a logical fallacy.
Well,
right?
there's other ways to grift other than
you say no incentive.
What is the grift?
You keep taking it to money. We threw money out of it in the beginning.
Okay,
you keep bringing it back to I don't make any money.
It's about fame, followers.
While we're on Single Dads Club, he also followed up with another 20 and said, "You're bandwagoning. Where's your proof? It's disingenuous. You're trying to bandwagon on something that sticks. I am my own boss."
If I'm the bandwagon, why am I severely outnumbered in this debate?
Because you're so bad at it. You haven't explained it very well.
Because your definition has included everyone.
Well, no, it didn't. That's the problem.
It's stupid.
I don't know the distinction between a woke left and a woke right.
Can you guys explain to me what I'm
Other than the racism
grift,
shit.
hold on, as a grift, right? You would need to imply that I'm misrepresenting myself. What am I misrepresenting?
I'm implying that you're trying to be up here next to fucking Andrew and Fluez or whoever them niggas you just
Clout.
Fluez.
We're all chasing club around here.
And let me clarify, Misfit, because you did say early on that you trolled Andrew with the intentions of getting him to come and do,
but
essentially.
Is that a grift, right? What I'm saying is what's misrepresented.
Well, I think you could, and I'm not against or for any of whatever everybody's talking about. I'm just trying to offer some clarity to the panel. I think even being a lolcow can be considered to be a grift because you're purposefully sending out kind of pseudo chops at people with the intention of harnessing their attention, but it's not really like you're truly having the argument. It's with a false intention, right?
I like it.
Most of this debate stems from not knowing what grift
hold on.
is.
Yeah, let him respond.
Hold on. Let him talk.
If you state your intentions and then follow through with your intentions, and you're completely open and honest and upfront with your intentions, how is it a grift?
It's the
okay.
Pardon me, I was so hungry. It's the lolcowing.
There wasn't a dude in the room. Like that's all I was saying.
Oh, I know it looks terrible. I'm eating a sub. I'm trying not to shovel it in my mouth. So I think the idea is that you're utilizing tools and tactics that are only yes, the intention is to harness somebody's attention. But the arguments being made are only meant to poke and prod at people and maybe not necessarily be something you believe in, or maybe it could be deemed as did you have to go that far? Did you have to say that much?
Now, what if
it's not so much as it is that the whole position is completely indefensible. The entire point of James Lindsay doing this is to drive a stake down the middle of the party in the first place.
I had a 2-hour
debate. Real before he started.
I had a 2-hour debate about why I defended it. Right. My question is, if you say that the tactics I use are adopted by grifters who are being disingenuous, but I do it in a genuine way. If I do it in a way where I'm actually being completely open and upfront and honest with what I'm doing, how is it a grift? It's not a grift.
No one believes you're upfront and honest with what you're doing. You're saying you're doing
I actually think it's not a grift, and
and
I'll give my reasoning.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Yeah, I was waiting to do that as well. If I could do it real quick.
Yeah. So I don't think it can be a grift.
Small scale swindle, and a swindle is using deception and deceiving tactics to rob people of their money. Essentially, this guy is not making any money. He cannot possibly be swindling anybody. So it doesn't even matter what scale he's on. It's not going to be a swindle.
So
but this guy is a plant by Andrew.
Do we agree?
He's not effective enough to argue against Andrew.
Do we agree that a grift is intentional?
He's a plant, not a grifter.
Yes. Is a grift intentional?
It has to be intentional.
It has to be intentional, right? So a lolcow by definition does not know it's a lolcow. So how could it be lolcowing intentionally as a grift?
It's the behavior, right? And maybe he doesn't know. And I'm not saying I'm agreeable to this or not. I'm just trying to offer clarity.
I'm not going to get offended.
All right. I know you're so easy to work with. But I wouldn't, I mean, if a lolcow doesn't know they're a lolcow and he doesn't understand what he's doing and how it can be perceived as, then that would be the very definition of him being a lolcow. And maybe his intention is to poke and prod, but he doesn't realize the behavior, how it's perceived as lolcowish behavior. He just thinks I'm getting somebody's attention.
I think he even perceives it a bit, but it's worth it to him.
I don't mind. I don't even know what a lolcow is, but you guys can explain it
precisely.
To me. But hold on,
we're here in an economy that deals in attention.
Go ahead, Misfit.
If I'm going to be called a grifter, I would like it to be defined to me how I'm grifting, because I'm the most honest, open book. You can look at my business page and see me working all the time. You can see me.
If you're that honest, are you in this for the fame at all? Be honest with me.
I don't care about. If I cared about the fame, I wouldn't be the most banned person.
See, you're not the most
it's
honest
not wrong
motherfucker,
to
bro. Yeah, you could have said yeah.
Single Dad follows up. He follows up to say it's not about misrepresenting. It's about an ideology that you
if it's not about misrepresenting,
bandwagoned on because that's your only play to hopefully get people behind you.
That would be misrepresenting your whole entire. So this whole entire sentence, it's not about misrepresenting, but it's about misrepresenting, right?
So that would be disingenuous.
So
not a
So I'm not disingenuous. I'm being honest when I say I'm trying to poke you to get your attention, right? I'm saying I'm doing this on purpose. I'm very open about it, right?
Okay.
And people take, so I'm basically fishing while telling the fish, don't bite that. And then they bite it and I go yoink. Like, so
Well,
I
I got a question for you, Misfit. Did you or did you not earlier tonight try to dunk on Andrew and say, well, you have what, 70,000 followers on Twitter? I have 100,000 on Instagram. You mentioned
No, I was just countering his argument. His argument was I don't have clout. I have clout. I have plenty of clout, right?
No, his argument was you don't have the requisite clout.
You want to debate.
So if you want to say I don't have the requisite clout, then that's a good argument.
That's not what I'm trying to say.
That was his argument.
That is what Andrew said.
Dragon Balls in with the Big Ten says Misfit. I wanted to finish up the last few at least. Misfit thrives on the grift of rage bait and negative engagement, a pseudo intellectual troll who then tries to become educated and taken seriously while presenting himself as ironic. Pathetic.
I'd say that's a perfect.
Go ahead, Dragon.
That's a perfect definition of what I do, and it's literally what I tell people I do. I say I'm going to troll you. You're going to get upset. You're going to want to challenge me. We're going to get into a conversation. And I think I am pseudo-intellectual. So I don't understand how this is a dig.
Let me ask you, what's your goal of that? Like, what's your primary motivation? I'm not making any judgments.
I have conversations. We're doing what my goal is right now.
So just to be clear, if we could convince you that there's a better way to get better conversations without trolling people, would you be open to that?
Of course I would. I like trolling. I say it all the time.
Yeah, if he had the capability.
But
that's it.
About capability. I'm capable of having an intellectual conversation.
Then why aren't you doing it? You just said it was better.
Because it's funner. It's funner to troll.
So then it's not just about the conversation. There's something else, right?
Is there the challenge? Is there the challenge to see how quickly you can get people?
The internet is a video game, all right? And I'm playing it on fucking no cheat codes, expert level, right? And that's all I'm saying.
You understand why we think your message may be a little subpar because you're too into the entertainment aspect.
None of us get to complain.
I wonder what novice level looks like.
Novice, right?
We came here to do a debate panel. Now we're complaining about somebody trying to have a debate. Like, let's be real. We're in an attention economy. We're in an attention. No, you hold on. I'm not done. We're in an attention economy. We deal in attention.
Do you understand
there's
a reason
that gets you attention? Then you work your way up the ladder. If you
There's a
just say
reason.
plain old shit, plain old intellectual shit the whole time, you don't work your way up the ladder. It's that simple.
Do you understand there's a reason why people know who I am? It's not because I'm bad at this, all right? Entertainment is what we are doing. Somebody just said entertainment in a negative connotation. It's exactly what everybody's doing on the internet.
That's fine, but that's a different answer to I'm just trying to have good conversations.
I'm trying to do both. Why can't you do both?
But is there one priority over the other? That's all.
I would say conversations are the priority, but you need to use getting attention and entertaining people.
There is a such thing as negative attention and negative entertainment too, right?
I will agree. I will agree on that regard because, like, sometimes in order for me even to get debaters on, I have to go and get their attention in ways. I mean, you know, like we rated
taking off your top.
We raided. I had my whole channel raid another channel, and everybody threw tomatoes, and it got the girls' attention.
Yeah, that's
and
funny.
You know, and they all said those things.
Sarah, let me ask you something.
But that's different kind of attention.
Sarah,
right?
let me ask something. Did you want to bring me and Andrew on because you thought it would be boring?
No, not at all.
Exactly. Right.
Did you think he would be a match for Andrew?
Whether or not you guys
I'm curious.
Well, this is round 2 for them, so this is their second round at a debate.
We've already had this. So, Sarah, what I'm saying
He
is,
seems so outgunned.
whether or not you agree with what I do, whether or not you use the same tactics, I don't think that the efficacy of what I'm doing is challenged because I am being brought on by people, and it's not necessarily my goal. It is my goal, but it's not necessarily my goal to be not taken seriously or be an lolcow, whatever the fuck you guys call it. Right? It's like it's not my goal. However, I have tapped into a certain corner of the internet where I know how to poke and prod people in order to get me into a space where I can have a serious conversation. And I
honestly don't care. I don't care. There's some truth to what you're saying. Clearly, there's a performance nature of it. The idea of grifting to me would be: are you intentionally misrepresenting yourself? If you're saying you're not, that's fine. I don't care. I want to yell at Mel.
Still not grifting.
All right, guys, I gotta get out of here. All right, so
all right, be easy, man. It was nice meeting you, pal.
Bye, Misfit. Have a good night.
Mel,
And Dragon Balls, let me get through these last couple, I promise, and then we'll get back to you guys. James Lindsay, father of the woke right, defines it as anyone who is anti-Israel and anti-classical liberal. And Misfit is grifting off of the false idea, and his big boy job is a go-to pathetic. And then
indefensible position.
Yeah. I can agree with that concept of how you guys are saying that like if you know you can't defend it, or you know maybe it's just a made up word or whatever, then why even have the conversation? I can understand. Dragon Ball follows up to say queer Marxists want to abolish gender entirely, which they attribute capitalism, that male-female binary shouldn't exist in their mind to achieve true equity, and definitions are forms of private property.
Okay, as a lefty, can I please respond to this?
Yeah, sure.
Because first of all, it's not just the queer Marxist or the queers, it's all lefties. So that's a really stupid category. Abolish gender entirely, not true. We want to get rid of forcing people to adhere to gender roles, such as like not shoving down being straight.
Where's the force?
Throat. And then the ways that we attribute to capitalism are more complex than that. It has more to do with like the overlap of like the ways that we see systemic discrimination nowadays are part of capitalism. They're inseparate from them.
What system?
The male-female binary is bimodal already. Science already confirms that. And we're not talking about equity. We're talking about equality. So I'm not sure what the fuck they're talking about.
You said so much. You said the male-female binary is what?
Bimodal.
Explain.
It's a distribution with two peaks, right? And so you see the majority of people fit into either a male bimodality or a female bimodality, but there's also overlap and there's extreme differences.
But that's true of any definition of anything. On the reason that we have, so that's on the reason that we identify two different sexes, like the bimodal nature of it's irrelevant. Like, for example, you could identify any living organism and say that it's a modal sort of method that we look at it. For example, how many legs does a cat have?
By the way, some things are binary. Whether or not a gene gets expressed is often very binary.
Answer the question.
Nonetheless, right? Nonetheless, when it comes to the like sort of the way that these things present ourselves in the practical world, sure, there could be individual parts of the makeup of the whole that could be specifically binary, but almost everything that expresses itself, what's the term we use, like phenotype? Almost everything that we see of that is of a modal progression in what you're saying, correct? Like it's always going to be a threshold. Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
so then but we would never say, well, given that, then we can't say that cats have 4 legs, because it's true that some cats have 3 legs and some have 2. But then it renders the term meaningless.
Well, you can't say all cats do, right? You can make an inductive argument that most cats do.
So you would say it's normal for cats to have 2 legs or 4 legs.
Just like in bimodality gives us a normalized region.
And is there utility in being able to identify that cats normally have 4 legs?
Yeah, for like inductive arguments and predictive truth.
Sure. So the same would be true of, right, sex of male and female. For all intents and purposes, just because there are, intersex people and there are people, there's abnormalities that could come with sort of genetic screw-ups for all intents and purposes, it still doesn't take away the utility of the fact that there's 2 sexes.
But what the left actually argues in this sense is that the norm itself shouldn't encompass the definitions that we assume for all people, right? So if because let's say I'm a teacher, right? Mm-hmm. If I assume all my students that their gender identity must match their reproductive sex,
if you assume that they're
then
normal,
I'm going to eventually be wrong.
Well, that's irrelevant. That's irrelevant. So now we have a separate
arguments only work up to a point.
No, but listen, that's irrelevant to the question I was asking. Now we're asking a separate question, which is the construct of gender, right? But on the interpretation,
I'm telling you what the left is actually saying and why it's not safe to assume.
I'm aware that what the left is doing is trying to separate gender from sex and trying to say that anyone
is
could be
separate.
anything, basically, and so we can't make any assumptions about
Do you look
anything.
at someone's genitals when you determine what pronouns to use? Do you look at their chromosomes?
No, what I
Hormones?
look at is the reasonable interpretation based on what I know about how
Where does
people
reproductive sex come from?
where does reproductive sex come from?
Yes.
Well, it's difficult to understand what you mean by that question. First, you could be talking
It
about
comes- it
things
comes
like
from genitals,
gametes,
hormones,
genitalia.
and-
Second, it could
yeah,
come from a place
and
of love. It
chromosomes.
could be in that area you're talking about. Third, it could come from like the couch where someone decides to bend
Rob,
over
I'm
their
walking
wife
you
and
down a
bang them.
path right now.
So I'm
It
not
comes-
quite sure what specifically
keep
you're
it simple.
talking about.
Well,
gonna
but
keep it
how
simple
would you
for you.
tell for an animal, right? For an animal, we would lift its
Well,
leg
animals-
and take a
animals
peep,
don't have gender.
right? Right,
Animals don't have
but
gender.
The point is,
well,
can
even
you
but even at that, like animals are. I apologize, Rob. We have done this fucking transgender argument at the end of every fucking panel, and I'm so over it. I
hear
swear
you.
to God.
I will.
It's all they like to talk
I will skip it. I will skip the
Uh,
transgender.
she
I'm happy
won't.
to have this conversation with you at some point in the future, Mel, because I have a feeling that you're going to have a difficulty defining the gender of male or man and woman without it being self-subjective. I bet whatever definition you
Rob,
give is.
I'll just say, I do think it's really interesting in the context of talking about the right as woke. The one reason why queer makes a lot of sense is, us lefties, in our infinite wisdom, we would say that, like, well, look, this is really just more evidence that the far right is always just being totally subjective. Everything they say is just, a banner ad on Fox News. It's crazy.
Everything the left says is a banner ad on NBC.
I
What
don't,
the hell is your
I don't
fucking
understand
point?
the connection to sort of the
not the
conversation.
far left.
So your argument is the woke right is everything the right says is a banner ad from Fox News. That's the argument.
Absolutely, it got too weird. Too much fatigue from
guy
fighting
is like
Barack Obama.
Okay, so let's take that to the logical extent. Do you largely agree with what Misfit Patriot said, that the groups he's identifying as woke right are groups like the Groypers?
So
That's
I
a
don't know
simple
who the
yes, no,
Groypers-
right?
I don't know who the I don't know who the Groypers are. Are they like the black shirts or?
The Groypers are like Nick Fuentes group. So this is group that I don't want to.
Yeah, no, I think the woke right is far larger. I mean, look at Truth Social. You can look at TikTok debates. Like it's like if I were to define what a woke right is,
Sure.
I mean, it's become that like capitalism is this feudal artistic expression. Meanwhile, the rest of the country and the rest of the world is still doing actual capitalism, actual liberalism.
I think you just said a bunch of words that I have no idea what they mean in context with each other.
That's how I felt.
We never know
No,
what
no.
duck means
Yeah.
when he talks.
It sounds like
I
what
enjoy
you're saying
trying to
is
decode it.
like, well, the right makes things up. They believe in conspiracy theories and things of that nature about. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, I would say conspiracy scams, all this stuff, you basically, if you take the actual floor out, and you kind of take the passion out and, you put people together and you say, well, how are you feeling right now? What does that result in politics? Well, it still goes back to Barack Obama not being a naturalized citizen. It still goes back to
who do you talk to?
What do you mean?
I mean,
like,
I
where are
live
you
in
getting
an area.
this?
I live in rural Pennsylvania. I would gather that 90% of the people that live in my community
Yeah.
are either apolitical or extremely right wing. I can't remember the last time I heard them mention Obama, let alone that he wasn't born in this country. So the idea that that's like seminal to the beliefs of Americans, I would say that the conspiracy theories that have been far more
I don't-
prolific. Like, what about this?
You're pushing me. You're push. I think you're pushing the reference in a direction that's not actually factual. I mean, go look at any time Barack Obama or Joe Biden still speak in public. You get the next batch. You get the same old conspiracy theorists. And
Who
these are
came
the
up
same
with?
people-
Let's ask this: what political figure first started to talk about Barack Obama not being born in the United States?
I believe I don't know who first said it. I know Donald Trump. Because
Hillary
he's
Clinton's
so,
team. That was campaign research that Hillary Clinton's team did.
Really?
Nodding your head.
Yes.
Nodding your head doesn't make
Hillary. Well, Hillary Clinton also spread around the rumor that Obama was a Muslim.
Correct.
That was another example.
So
of,
is that the woke left? And that's how many Democrats voted for Hillary, right?
I mean, I don't know, like, this is like an appetite control problem on the question. Like, I don't think anyone in their right mind would reasonably say that the left is responsible for these xenophobic lies about a politician. That doesn't make sense.
So what exactly makes it xenophobic?
But they are.
What makes it xenophobic?
That's fear of a people from a different place, right?
It's not just fear of a person from a different place. The primary argument was that legally he wasn't able to be president because the law says that if you weren't born here, you can't be. So is that law xenophobic?
So I'm an American, so I'm not going to do deep deconstruction. Not that I can't, and I would on a different occasion. But I would say when you have Breitbart looping in these narratives about some Kenyan spy national infiltrating the U.S. alongside the Russians, all of which is complete BS. And then this goes into
Doug, can I just interject?
I'm landing the plane. I'm landing the plane.
Here's the problem.
Like this is
and then all of this
rambling.
goes
I can make it super simple.
Be very quiet for 1 second. You don't understand this. And so
I do.
And so once you have this this narrative, which is all based on lies, it's all propaganda, it's all conspiracy theory, and you're using this to start doing actual politics. This is the same thread that MAGA used to control the election. It's these narratives that people can.
Was Donald Trump a Russian
They
spy?
understand it.
Was Donald Trump a Russian spy?
So I can make this super
Let me
simple.
finish
by the
now,
way.
please. I promise I'll trust you.
No, I was super
Doc,
patient.
was Donald
and
Trump a
he's just
Russian
derailing
spy?
things further. Like I just want to point
Mel,
out super
I'll
quick.
get to you in a second.
These
Doc,
are the
I had a
same
quick
people
question
who
for
got
you, Doc.
super
Was
excited.
Donald Trump a Russian
These are-
spy?
This message is sponsored in part by.
Look, I let Duck have his turn.
Duck was
Bill
having a
degenerate,
conversation with me,
Sarah.
and I-
Bill degenerate.
We can keep it super simple, right? These are the same people who get excited when Elon Musk, who is not a native-born citizen, has almost unilateral control of certain parts of the state.
What are you talking
While
about?
they
Mel,
also
was
get
Donald Trump a
excited
Russian
when hearing
spy?
that Obama's not from there, and then say that Obama shouldn't be president.
Hey,
It's
Mel,
just a
was
double
Donald Trump a
standard,
Russian
and it's
spy?
all politically
The
motivated.
power to
Mel, was
execute
Donald
any
Trump a
policy
Russian
does he
spy?
have?
It's just a double standard.
Was
Hey,
Donald
Mel.
Trump a
At that
Russian
point.
spy?
Can you
Hey, Mel,
know?
was Donald
Are
Trump
you
a Russian
conceding that it's
spy?
a double standard by
I'm
moving
asking
on?
you a question. You guys have
But
illustrated
by
your
asking that
worldview.
question, are you conceding this
so
or are you
allow me,
refuting it?
allow me to retort. You have made the claim, both of you, that because there were people that believed that Barack Obama was not born in this country, that is seminal to what almost the entirety of the right is. This day, someone's mic's going crazy.
What the hell? Everybody mute.
Check. I don't think it's me.
Maybe it's Rocky. Rocky, is that you?
That.
Holy shit. All right, Rocky, go fix your shit and come back.
I thought someone was
I thought somebody was like falling down the stairs.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
was
that's
like a
what I heard.
diversion tactic,
I
but-
thought that was. Holy shit.
Oh my
yeah.
god.
All right.
Oh,
So,
God.
anyways, to
Thoughts
finish,
and prayers.
so it's seminal to everything that is conservative
No,
or
it's not.
Republican now, is what Duck was saying.
That's not
And the point is
conservative.
because it
That
was
isn't conservative.
xenophobic, because he was born
It's
in a
not
different country.
conservative.
So the
That's-
Shut
retort
up,
to
Duck.
that is the reason that would be somehow unique to talk
It's
about
not
would be
using
that
language.
who is it that just keeps interrupting me? Is it you, Duck?
That would be Duck.
It's fucking me.
Duck,
Watch your fucking mouth.
you're in the
I'm
wrong
sorry? What was
because he's using a line of logic. He's running you down a line of logic. If you open up your ears and listen, you'll hear it. And before we move on, the Single Dads Club says you lefties always move the goalposts. That's why you will always cannibalize each other. Your ideology never works and will never work in society. And then Brett says the woke left go ape over bathroom controversy manufactured. The woke right go ape over immigrants, certain ethnicities, media also manufactured. Okay, back to Rob.
All right.
So the
So the
reason,
point
actually,
is,
can I
so
please
I'm sorry.
respond?
No.
What's
I'll
your
get-
name, Rob?
No, enough.
Since
We're
when
back
did we
to
stop
Rob.
responding to super chat?
I don't want you to respond right now because I interrupted only to read the super chat really quickly because it deserved to be read. Back to you, Rob, and then Mel in a moment.
So
you can respond.
the point real quick was that this is somehow seminal to the beliefs of the right now, and it was xenophobic because it had to do with him being born in a different country. However, it wouldn't be unique to the left or to the right, or Republicans, if we could see that the Democrats have engaged in a far more serious, untrue, xenophobic conspiracy. So I ask Mel or Duck, was Donald Trump a Russian
That's
spy?
not common sense. I'll answer that. That's not common sense, and
That's
I
not an
haven't seen
answer.
a single person
Where's
on the
the
left
answer?
promoting conspiracy theories. EOD,
You haven't seen Rachel Maddow? You haven't
None.
seen MSNBC News saying over and over and over again that
Rachel Maddow
Donald
is an
Trump
editorial.
is associated with Russian intelligence?
On frickin' NBC.
Yeah, but she did say it, and she is on the left, and she does influence a lot of fucking
They
people.
have evidence for it, EOD. Like you're acting
You're over here citing obscure Breitbart headlines. This shit was mainstream belief in the left. For years. For years. It still is for the most part.
I have a very brief demonstration for everybody here.
It's very simple, by the way.
Corinth, I have two
I
questions.
still haven't. Rob was
Corinth,
talking
are
to
you
me.
a
I still haven't
leftist?
had a chance to respond.
Yes.
It was going to go back to me. I'm being
Corinth. Corinth,
So,
do you
when it
believe
comes-
that Donald
when it comes
Trump
to
was
talking
actually shot in the
about
air?
who is going to be xenophobic and stuff like that? There's only one party that's capable of actually looking at an alien group of people and saying they must be bad because they're aliens. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Russians.
Rob, if you're
What did
going to
Democrats
ask
think of
us,
Russians?
Rob, if you're going to ask us about a specific, then you can't take our answers as a response for the whole of the Republican Party. That's incredibly disingenuous.
Democrats.
I have no
Democrats
idea what you
actually
just-
want. No,
what-
Democrats actually want to have a stable geopolitical order. They want to see Russia as successful. As long as it doesn't
it's irrelevant to
threaten
the
our
question that
Western
I asked
allies.
specifically.
Like,
The idea
can
that
we cut through this a little?
The idea that that's implication is that Republicans don't want to see certain countries geopolitically stable, which isn't true. What
Yeah,
Republicans,
yeah.
it's not true, right? The question isn't what do we want to see geopolitically stable. We could see, for example, there was credible evidence that hate crimes against Russians went through the roof in the United States once Donald Trump was being smeared as a Russian. Duck is being disingenuous or he's grotesquely misinformed if he thinks it was just media people that were, quote, editorializing that talked about Trump being a Russian spy. For example, one of the biggest Democrats, Adam Kissinger, repeatedly went on Jake Tapper's show, which, by the way, is considered a journalist and not an editorial section, and said that they had personally seen evidence of Donald Trump
Rob, you're
conspiring
taking
with
this
Russia.
out of you're
It is-
taking this
it-
out
let
of
me
bounds
finish.
and
Let
really
me finish real
specific.
quick. It's not
You're-
taking it
land
out
the
of
plane.
context.
Land the plane.
It's not taking it out of context. What it is it's showing that the double standard being employed when Democrats want to engage in a xenophobic conspiracy that was far more damaging, that led to actual FBI investigations, led to actual like special counsels, illegal spying on Trump, etc. None of those things happened to Barack Obama because he was accused of being born in a different country. Yet they shirk responsibility and say, well, it wasn't a conspiracy theory and it wasn't immediately disprovable. So you're making excuses for your own xenophobia conspiracy theories.
No, Rob, and case in point, I'll bring up one very short point and give it back to the panel. I think the fact of how lied to the right is and how much they've embraced it is you use the word conservative to define MAGA woke right. There's not a single conservative in MAGA woke right. Even online, people call them tradcons. There's absolutely no references to civic duty. It's all about how hateful you can be and how much you can offload that hateful baggage into your identity and toward other people in the
We're
world.
still talking about the woke right that encompasses like every single person.
I find your overarching worldview that the people that you disagree with political's sole
You're
motivation
underestimating
is
everything.
hatred to speak more of you and your ideology than anything that me or anyone that voted for Donald Trump would
See, I think you're dodging what
You're
Duck
severely
I'm
underestimating.
not dodging at all.
how
Rephrase
far-
the question,
how far
Mel.
MAGA is.
Do you think everything that MAGA is just based out of hatred? That's all what it is?
That's not a proper rephrasing of the question.
Duck, why don't
Duck
you
was saying
rephrase again what you
no
said
true
then, Duck?
conservative. What Duck's argument was, no true conservative would actually be a maggot, right? And that is
Actually be a
plausible.
what?
There are many conservatives who are now rejecting
true at
Trump
all.
because they feel like he's rejecting the Constitution. He's not upholding the law and stuff like that. I have seen that personally.
That's not true at all. For
That's,
example,
that's not all. Not
It is a feasible argument.
It's
It's
not a
not-
feasible
it's-
argument.
Pardon me. It's
not a
that
horrible
not all
argument.
apples can be fruit, or all apples are fruits, but not all fruits can
It's
be apples.
easily disprovable. I know plenty of legitimate conservatives that voted for Donald Trump because the alternative was much worse and continue to support Donald Trump
Look,
and
I
think
didn't
that
get to
many of the
finish,
things
by
that
the
he is
way.
instituted. Now, can you
I was
say
actually gonna partly agree with you in saying that like it's the paleocons that are leaving more than the neocons, right?
That
So
makes
if-
no sense.
If Duck said it's no paleocons in the MAGA party, that would almost be that would probably
well,
be
no,
more true.
I think
than
that's
all conservatives.
probably even less. That
You
you're
think
even
neocons are leaving faster?
You're even more incorrect. Yes, the neocons do not like Donald Trump. So the Mitt Romney.
then you're
the-
politically inept. Then you shouldn't be having this
I
conversation.
mean, again,
the fuck up,
what
Melanie.
I've
Are you
noticed,
serious?
Mel, is my first interacting with you.
Already.
If smugness,
It's not our first time,
if
Rob.
well, it's the first time I remember. So one, you're not very memorable, and second, if smugness was a good argument, you would be crushing it. Now,
maybe you just don't
let me.
remember
You can
losing.
say I'm politically inept before I even finish the answer, but I think the paleocons that were represented, like as the avatar of like Pat Buchanan, actually strongly favor what Donald Trump's doing. One of the central core beliefs that they have would be protecting the border. So I think many paleocons would be down with that. They're also anti-interventionist. So I think they would embrace Donald Trump's policies, whether they're effective or not, of trying to get us out of funding Ukraine or potentially funding Israel and Palestine, trying to stop that conflict from happening. Whereas the neocons, they're the group that actually wants the wars to continue and wants us to continue funding Ukraine and are actually upset that Donald Trump was running on promises of stopping that funding. So I think you're fundamentally wrong about which traditional conservative group would be more likely to be against MAGA.
Well, you're
I have no idea who the right actually is. It's a fantasy that they've constructed
I'm
in their
sorry.
mind,
I waited
and
very
they're fighting
patiently to
against.
respond
It's
to
a
Rob
complete
there.
fucking straw man.
I'm super sorry. You're wrong about what paleocons really want, right? They want to uphold traditional values. They like upholding the Constitution and the law. You're right about some of those values that they did have, but they're not as strong as the current values Trump is not upholding. In regards to the Ukraine thing, I think more of them are smarter than neocons to see that like what Trump is doing is really just making up for the fact that his tariffs are absolutely going to fuck the supply chain of defense weapons to Ukraine. And so they're going to lose anyways. So by acting like he gives a shit, then he can say, well, we did everything we could. It's not our fault.
They're already losing their shit, bro.
I mean,
That's not paleocons say this, by the way.
that's what neocons represent,
You
right?
guys, we get conspiracy theories in people pay to send conspiracy theories. That is how.
That's how
your entire party
started
believed
the
that Donald Trump was
Is
a
it
Russian
really
spy.
your claim that Trump is using tariffs as a way to obfuscate
entire
problems
party,
with the
Rob?
Ukraine
Yes.
Ukraine conflict?
The
Every
Democrat
single
Party,
Democrat.
yes.
Every single one.
Okay,
I wouldn't be able to find one
no,
Democrat who
that's
didn't.
true. Absolutely, Mel. There might be some people like you that don't believe in biological reality that somehow is on the fringe of this, just like you are when it comes to the expression of your gender. That is true. Those people could exist. But I would say colloquially, when we say entire party, what I meant is the platform that your party ran on and almost the vast majority of the leaders within that party, both culturally, media, and politically. Yes, they believed thoroughly that Donald Trump was a Russian asset, needed to be investigated for, and many of them still believe that after it's thoroughly been debunked.
So
I'm not a
the party
leftist.
platform
I
was
think there's
released
some good
by saying Donald Trump.
arguments over
Which year did the DNC release a platform where they said Donald Trump is a spy?
They ran on that promise from
Yeah, so the DNC
2017.
would have released a stated platform that says Donald Trump is a Russian spy, right? So which year did they release that?
Why does that need to be the case for them to run on it?
The question that you're
Well,
asking is a non sequitur, a word that you claim.
something and
Let me finish.
conflating that with
Let
a
me finish.
platform.
Let me finish. The question that you're asking is a non sequitur, a term that you claim to be familiar with, because what a party believes isn't necessarily everything that's put into their platform. Would
It's
you
not a
agree with that?
non-sequitur. I can make a logical argument that links it.
I am making.
If
Can you
the
tell me?
party
I'll
really
ask you
did
straight
run
up.
on that-
I'll ask you
Here, I'm
straight
gonna
up.
finish.
You
I'm gonna
would say,
finish what I'm saying.
can you
If
show
the
me, for
party
example,
really
can
did
you
run
show
on
me an
that,
example?
if the party really
Can you show
did
me,
run on that, then
for
what we
example,
would see is a party platform release that says Donald Trump is a Russian spy. It's starting to sound like there isn't a party platform.
So they can't run on messages that are not explicitly in the
They
platform?
say they ran
Did
on
I
he
use
was
the
a
term party
spy.
platform?
There should be
Let
some
me finish,
evidence
Joe.
of
Please,
that.
let me finish.
Yeah,
Did
and
I
I'm
use the
talking
term
about the
party
evidence of
platform?
that.
Yes or no?
Rob,
Did I
when-
use the
when
term party platform? Yes or no?
You said running on. Running on means.
Did I
that
use
that's
the term party platform? Yes or
what
no?
does running on something mean?
Did I use the term party platform? Yes or no?
Running on something means that you're
Okay,
using
second,
a platform
now that you're unwilling to answer that
justify
question,
your
the
election.
second question is,
that platform
can you show
is
me,
something
can
that
you
you
or
would
Duck
release
show me?
This message is sponsored in part by.
So
Okay, hold on. The two of you are driving me up a fucking wall. So here's what I'm going to do. The platform is yours for the next 5 minutes, guaranteed. It is on you. I'm not going to stop interruptions. I'm not doing anything. I'm just going to remove all of us, and the floor is all fucking yours. You guys deal with it. Got it?
Fine.
This way, this way, nobody else can bother you. Nobody can interrupt you. And I don't get a headache trying to referee.
Okay, Rob, I'll try to let you finish if you let me finish.
Well, that sounds good. So you'll admit that I didn't say party platform. Duck said that Republicans are all about hatred. Can you show me in their platform where they said we're running on hatred?
Not specifically, no.
Oh, so then you would admit that that's not true.
Sure, I'm not Duck. I would say that what they did is they riled up a populist base that was angry at minorities.
Can you show me that platform where they said our platform is riling up a populist base? Can you show me where they put that in their platform?
Well, Project 2025 does talk about doing things to address that. So I would say that would be the evidence.
Okay, can you show me where they ran on Project 2025, particularly the part that said we plan on using hatred to rile? Can you show me any speech, any website that Trump or any other Republican ran on? Can you show me one of those?
At some point, yeah, not offhand, but there are definitely platforms.
Okay, where do you think it'll be? Which politician ran on that specifically? Was it Trump?
Yes.
Okay, so you're going to be able to provide me something from Trump's campaign saying our plan is to inspire hatred to drum up anger at minority groups.
No, not those words specifically.
What's it going to say?
In general, it would be policies that make immigrants and stuff like that out to be.
Oh, so then so they're going to advocate for policies, and your
this is just political literacy, Rob.
Your assumption will be that
This
the
is just
reason
political
behind those
literacy,
policies or
Rob.
the intent of those policies is hatred.
But this is just political literacy, right? You have to understand that parties aren't
That's
going
exactly
to say
the
the
point.
quiet part out loud.
Well, isn't
So
that
you have to
interesting?
look at their
Yes, you're right.
policies
That's
and
right. Just because
investigate
it's
that.
not specifically in the platform doesn't mean that the Democrats were actually going all in on Trump's a Russian spy, even if
Well,
it
can you
wasn't in
name me
their
a
platform.
policy that
That's
has
called
to do with
political
that?
literacy.
Can you name me a policy that has to do with that? I would have accepted that earlier.
Name a policy that has to do with Trump being a Russian spy. How about impeachment?
That's not necessarily they impeach him
What
on
doesn't
different
matter?
grounds.
What is the Democrats running on right now? What's their central? It's we hate Trump. What are they saying? If we win in 2020, if we win the midterms, we're
DEI.
going to impeach Trump.
It's pro DEI. They're talking about fighting harder to help the Ukraine. They're talking about Trump's tariffs
It's
being
not
terrible
the central
policy.
focus. It's not the central focus they have. Almost
And we
all of
have
what
to
the Democrats,
separate-
almost all of what the Democrats have been like since Trump's been in office is Trump bad, Trump evil. If we win the midterms, it's a referendum on we now need to go after
That's
Trump.
incredibly
Their
reductive.
strategy against Trump for the 4 years, particularly the last 2 years, going into the 2024 cycle, was to use lawfare against Trump.
So I don't see anywhere in the DNC platforms that say Trump bad.
It's called political literacy.
What I do see is them saying Trump bad because his tariffs are incredibly bad economic policies, going to crash the economy,
that's not true.
disrupt
That's-
supply lines,
That's
and
not.
cost
That
the
is
American
certainly.
consumer
It
way
is
more
certainly
money.
true that there have been those that have said Trump's bad because of his tariffs, but they certainly have been saying Trump bad about everything. For example, one of the first viral stories that went out from the DNC that they were putting out was 2 days after Trump was sworn in office. What was the first economic story they talked about? It was a particular product they were talking about being expensive.
So
what was it? Do you know? You have political
I don't.
literacy.
I have a question for you.
But
Actually,
wait.
I've answered now. Now I have a question. I'm
Your
turning it
answer
back
was
on
you don't know. It was I'll finish my point real quick, then I'll gladly answer. It was eggs. 2 days into Trump's being sworn in, they blamed him for the high egg prices. Now, me and you both know that's garbage. There's no way he could affect the price of eggs in just 2 days of being in office. And actually, the reason egg prices were up because during the Biden administration, they called a bunch of chickens. But the Democrats were more than happy to run on that narrative. Now, you might say,
I
well,
don't think that was a part of the
the
DNC
political
platform.
literacy isn't just Trump bad. It's Trump's bad because of egg prices. But the underarching theme of that was Trump's bad because of anything. We don't care.
No, I think you're taking I think you're misquoting like Rachel Maddow or somebody because
No,
that was not a part of the DNC platform yet again. What they would have said is Trump will be bad for egg prices.
That's not
Trump
what
will
they said.
hurt egg prices because tariffs hurt the American consumer. So
That's not what they said. They were talking about
that
egg
is actually
prices
what
then.
I remember seeing. For example, the Majority Report. I'm sure you know about them saying that. So going a little bit deeper into this, I don't think I saw any leftists complain that there was anything like Trump's bad because he has early childhood education policies, right?
What's that?
You've heard about Trump's early childhood education
Yes.
policies. Did you see any leftists say this is bad? Because I didn't.
No, there are some policies that Democrats would be the similar of saying like if there were policies that Joe Biden
that
had that
kind of-
Republicans like, they weren't going to criticize those specific policies.
Well, that kind of refutes the notion, though, that like Democrats are saying everything Trump does is bad. No, we're looking for the things that Trump does that is bad.
But no,
Substantiate
it's not that. It's that they will try to turn anything into a negative because the central theme
They
that
didn't
holds the
turn-
Democratic Party together right now is that Orange Man bad.
You already
right?
conceded
And
they
so-
didn't turn.
And so there
early
might
childhood
be
education
slight
into something
individual
bad.
things. For example, how many policies do you think came out of the Trump administration so far?
I would say close to 100 of like concrete policies.
So do you think that in our online political sphere we have right now, that if someone truly was like, I basically am running on that I hate Trump, or that our ideology is that we hate Trump, that if they did not criticize all 100 of those policies, by the way, I think that's a lowball number, then that means that it disproves the thesis. Because if they really despised everything, if they really despised Trump the person, then they would criticize every single 100 policy.
No, I think that that's a different argument. That could also just be an argument that Trump is
given that
legitimately
the
inept.
claim you just
But
made,
Rob, let me finish. Because that could also be an argument that Trump is just legitimately inept 100% of the time. What you have to argue is that Democrats calling these things bad is intrinsically inept. As I pointed with the egg crisis thing, you seem to misunderstand what Democrats were saying.
You don't understand your own argument, right? Because your argument was the proof that it's not just that they hate Trump is, well, here's one policy, early childhood education, that they didn't criticize. Therefore, that proves that they don't just hate Trump and everything that he stands for. To which I then get you to refute that when I immediately bring up, okay, but if he has 100 policies, are you saying if they didn't criticize all 100 of them, then it disproves the thesis that they just dislike him? You said, no, that would be an absurd burden. I say, yes, exactly.
No, that's not what I said.
The argument that you made was fallacious. The argument that you made was fallacious. Please, the argument that you made was fallacious because you just admitted that, no, they probably aren't going to criticize all 100 of those policies.
I'm going to respond before I get dropped. I said it's not sufficient proof. It could also be proof for an argument that Trump is just politically inept that much of the time.
January 24th from the official Democrat X account. It's been 4 days since he was sworn in, and Trump still hasn't done anything to lower the price of groceries and eggs. That's the official Democrat X account. Now tell me again, that was 4 days after he was sworn in.
But had he?
What's the matter? You said that they weren't making those claims about egg prices.
Rob, you're working against yourself. You're working against yourself.
Shut up, Duck. Nobody's talking to me.
All you're proving is that the Republican Party has no agility. They haven't said
get wrecked.
They haven't been able to budge on immigration. They haven't been able to budge on this crazy inflation food story. Everything is existential. This shows that the party's going downhill, and it's because there's no true Scotsmen. There's no conservatives left anywhere in the world there.
Oh my God!
I want to give Furby, since she's getting dropped, and I think we have about 10 minutes left of the show anyways. So I want to go ahead and let Furby give her closing thoughts on your way out.
Okay, so I have never seen so many people triggered by words in the same room. Like, really, just call
You're
it
triggered by not being called the pronouns you want.
Just call it egalitarian. It's okay to be cisgender. And we need to, we really need to understand that, like, this whole debate is solved by letting this go back to being African American vernacular English, where they were calling out a specific thing, and now we're trying to generalize it, thus providing evidence that that's what we do, right? We appropriate things and we bastardize them. It's time to stop doing that. And guess what? This whole argument goes away. Have a good night, and thank you for having me, Sarah.
Absolutely. We'll see you next round, though.
Always good to see you too.
And then Single Dads Club also came in with a big 20, said it started in 2015 with Crossfire Hurricane, ya ding dong. What is Crossfire Hurricane?
Crossfire Hurricane was the FBI investigation into Trump over Russia collusion. It was created by the Hillary Clinton campaign. A memo by the former head of the CIA, John Brennan, admitted that he instructed then President Barack Obama that Hillary planned to plant a story and run it, that Trump was connected to Russia and was working with them as an agent of Russia. The FBI knew this, continued to use a Russian subsource that was paid by Hillary Clinton's team, without being able to confirm their information, to illegally spy on Trump. It's been admitted that it was illegal. 4 times getting FISA warrants to be able to spy on his entire team, setting up the narrative that he was a Russian spy, which allowed for the complete and total investigation into his campaign, including FISA warrant applications through the two-hop rule that could get access to all of his communications, including emails and phone calls, to be able to spy on him. It was basically Watergate times 1,000 with the force of the strongest investigative body in the history of this country, the FBI, used as a tool to have Barack Obama and the Democrats investigate and smear their political opponent. But Duck liked it.
Can I ask you a question, Rob? Do you breathe
I don't know
when
what
you
you're
talk?
talking about.
You just play Trump with a little circular breathing there.
Go ahead.
Can I? Well, so Duck, I have just 2 questions.
What's up, Adam?
I swear.
What's up?
So you're saying that there aren't any conservatives in the MAGA movement, right?
Yeah, I would. So
Okay.
if we're having if we're having a slower tempered conversation, I would say there's no apparent conservative values in the MAGA movement.
Well,
and I don't know of a popular
a strong
MAGA
border? That is a
advocate who I
conservative
would
value.
classify as a
Doug.
conservative.
Having a
Well,
strong border is a
ideology.
conservative value, Doug.
Well,
Having a strong economy is a conservative value.
Well, if
You should be
if I
ashamed
recall what you
of
said
yourself,
earlier,
Yogi.
you said that there are people in the MAGA movement who refer to themselves as tradcons. Is that right? Is that your position?
No, my position is that MAGA is creating labels for things, is what I said earlier, like tradcon, because they don't know what a classical conservative is. Ask
right.
Candace
Oh,
Owen; she knows
look,
this.
I
She
just
didn't-
I just wanted to congratulate Rob on going full time. Congrats, bro. It's
Thanks,
good to see you.
Thanks,
I
man.
wanted to say that to Andrew too, but it was hard to get a word in edgewise when he was here. But I'm gonna head out, Sarah. You can bring somebody else in if you like.
Nobody
Later,
else
Yogi.
is
Have a good one, man.
backstage. But
We're
do,
back.
do any final thoughts, EOD?
Yeah, come find me on Rob's channel. I'm moderating over there sometimes, and I do my own thing sometimes. Come find me on YouTube. But I'll see y'all later. Thank you for having me, Sarah.
Thanks, EOD. Have a good night. And speaking of Rob, Single Dads Club says, "Thank you, Rob. You're a rock
Thank you,
star."
single dad. I appreciate it.
So, oh goodness, my brain is fried. So we've got Cure, only a Mr. Bill. I don't believe you've said anything yet this evening. Did you have some thoughts to add to the panel?
I think you're muted.
You're
Mr.
muted,
Bill.
sir.
No, congratulate Rob.
Thank you,
Did a
man.
nice job. I didn't have anything. The Patriot guy, he just seems like he wanted to sort of lump everybody into a certain box and everything. The far left, they lump everybody, call them Nazi or fascist or whatever. I was gonna be curious about whether he considered the people that the left calls Nazi and fascist, are those the same people that he considers woke right? Trying to find some sort of a connection between.
Well, the short answer is yes. If you look at the definitions which James Lindsay used, generally all of the people are right-wing people who are anti-Israel, just basically anti-Israel, but more so it also mostly refers to people who are more identitarian, like Fuentes is the example that he used, but Candace Owens is another example which is used commonly. And obviously, Candace Owens has certain hang-ups. I'm trying to be nice to the channel, Sarah, as well as other people. But the problem with the term is that it's been applied so broadly. So here's a question: what
Like
views
fascist.
Well, see, I actually went on a bit of an autistic spree trying to understand what fascism is, and I've realized, nobody's using the term right, but whatever. So, what does Andrew Isker, Orrin McIntyre, and Patrick Deneen have in common? They're all vaguely right-wing. All of these people are classic examples used by James Lindsay to refer to the woke right. There's not really much in common between these three, except they're all regionalists, and none of them are mainstream right. So when you look at the interview which Jordan Peterson did with James Lindsay,
What is a regionalist? Is that like
focus on local community over like the overall nation? It's really basic. Like basically every single person on the right wing is going to be a regionalist to some degree, because it's focused on regionalism, localism. It's all the same thing. Focusing on building communities that are insular around you. So trying to rebuild third places, looking at a guy that read Bowling Alone and was like, maybe this effect is bad actually. But anyway, point is, Lindsay and Jordan Peterson straight up say in the interview or in the talk that, and this is me paraphrasing, but you can all watch it. You should watch this because they say a lot of shit and a lot of it's awful. They say the further away you get from, the more radical you get, the more likely something is to be Luciferian, satanic. So that would imply the closer to non-radical, which means the closer to the status quo, the less likely it is to be Luciferian, meaning obviously the status quo is the most godly position you can have, which is just obviously stupid. I don't think I need to explain why that's dumb.
That means that just to clarify for everyone, Jordan Peterson basically got famous for arguing against compelled speech in Canada. But because that was the status quo understanding, that would mean that Jordan Peterson, by fighting that, would have been radical, hence a Luciferian, according to his own logic.
He could be Luciferian, to be precise.
Right. So, I mean, just...
So is this like a joke? Is this like a play on Nietzschean antichrists or something like this?
No, this isn't a joke. Like they literally say this explicitly in the interview, and it's not a joke. I'm not making a joke. They say so many stupid things, like that when people tell you that they're laughing at you online, they're engaging in sophisticated psychological torture techniques. That's something that James Lindsay actually says. Another thing James Lindsay actually says, Lucifer is woke because he's called the morning star. What do you do in the morning? You wake up. Therefore, Lucifer is woke. This is at first I thought this was a joke, but he reiterates the point later on in the interview. He's being serious. It's actually insane, the sort of stuff that James Lindsay says in this interview, which is why I don't think anybody can like seriously take this shit seriously.
Yeah, I have a question for Duck. So, would you consider someone who votes according to what MAGA would prescribe, but just based off of the fact that they have a sort of single issue that they feel strongly about, but and that aligns with the MAGA prescribed candidate, or even just a set of policies they care about that align with MAGA, but isn't in totality the same as MAGA? How would you characterize that person? And like, would they be just a regular conservative, or are they MAGA? Like, what is that for you?
Can I ask if I can ask a clarifying question?
Yeah, go ahead.
I would like to know if I am allowed to distinguish between like a single issue vote, like the death penalty, or pro-life, which for Catholics both have been huge. Or if we're talking about like people who are like, single issue voters and like, oh, I'm scared for my family because of the border, or something, and so I'm gonna vote based on what I perceive to be not national security but border security. Like, are those different?
Not. Well, I guess I don't think that's really that important, because really what I'm trying to get at is, let's say I'm a subset of MAGA, right? I just have a certain subset of beliefs that align, just not all of them.
MAGA is I don't know. I wouldn't know how to classify MAGA either statistically or in any other sense, or just like through common sense, without thinking of Donald Trump. So intuitively the first thing I thought when you asked that was like, well, the majority of MAGA voters voted for Donald Trump, right? Like I don't think people looked at the platform. They just said, oh, this is hateful enough for me, so I'm gonna go with Donald Trump because he's a hateful man. Whenever he gets in public, I don't know the guy, but he's hateful as the president of the U.S.
Well, I guess what I'm just trying to...
Doc, who'd you vote for? Just curious.
I voted for Kamala, and I voted to keep abortion legal in Arizona because I care about my family.
So you voted for baby murder and the party of the people that tried to assassinate Trump.
Well,
that's good.
Rob, you probably voted for endorsing rape for the last 2,000 years.
Hold on,
so.
how did I do
that? Who ran on that?
I'm just guessing you're one of these psychotic Christian nationalists who rejects forms of mysticism and all this other stuff, right?
No, that's me.
That's
no.
Wait. What does any of that have to do with me voting for grape for 2,000 years?
I don't know. You don't know me at all, so why did you talk about me?
You told me who you voted. Just to be clear, the order of operations here. I was not anywhere aggro against you until you told me F something under your breath, F you, something like that. Right, and then you said that everyone that votes the same way that I did so purely because we are hateful. And then when I retort back to you, oh well, I think you voted for baby murder. You're like, you don't know me. Why would you say that?
If you're not understanding, then you're hateful, Rob.
No, that's not true. If not understanding made you hateful, you'd be the most angry person alive, because you don't seem that intelligent to understand much at all.
Yeah, can I finish my last question?
No,
I'm just
you
gonna
don't.
head out.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
It's remarkable.
It is remarkable that you think you're sounding intelligent.
Doc,
I have a duck tie on.
I just want to clarify.
That's true.
Go ahead,
Sorry.
Kieran.
In your mind, Doc, does someone need to be entirely MAGA to be MAGA for you? Like, this might sound strange, but like,
What does that
would you
mean?
consider someone close enough to be MAGA? Like, is
Please
it?
really clarify that?
It's not
Keep
like
going.
precise, right? Like, there can be a subset of the entirety of the beliefs, and that be MAGA for you, right? Like, that's close enough.
I don't know what that means.
Like,
Well, what classifications would you utilize in order to describe what a MAGA person would believe, or what?
Well, I don't think that's relevant. I just want to know if someone.
No, I'm asking Duck. I'm asking Duck.
Oh,
Like, where's the line at with categories?
Well, it's a great question because you'd have to ask how people view federal spending for like national security spend and stuff like this. Like, does it matter why people are voting an issue? Like, does it matter if I've been a 20-year Catholic, so I'm voting for a pro-life candidate, or I discovered Orthodox on the internet, and so I'm voting for a pro-life candidate? Like,
Let me cure for 1 second. Like, so let's just start at the baseline. Is everyone who voted for Trump MAGA?
Wait, I think everyone who says they're part of MAGA is MAGA.
Okay, but not everyone says they're part
I don't know.
of MAGA.
Do you have any references for this, Rob?
Yes,
Is this what you're
the
upset
reference
about?
I have is I'm a human being that asked a question that wasn't difficult to
you?
understand. We're trying to get a baseline of who you consider MAGA. So the very first baseline would be, is everyone who voted for Trump MAGA? You could say, no, I don't think so.
What
and
are
then
you
we could
talking
move
about,
on
buddy?
from there.
What are you talking about, buddy?
Duck, he's trying to understand because you're making the claim that it's like you're all MAGA. Everybody's just MAGA if they're MAGA, right? And you're not allowing any type of blurred lines or maybe subsets, or you're kind of here, kind of there, whatever. You're just saying basically.
Sure, prove it.
I can articulate it with numbers, actually.
You made the claim.
Can I have some lefty to
Duck.
lefty? Can I have some lefty to lefty communication with Duck? Can I
Sure,
try
go
and get
for
through
it.
this?
Translate for
Okay, Duck. Do you think that people can be MAGA and not agree with the given policy Donald Trump is proposing?
MAGA is Donald Trump. There's not a such thing in the United States before whenever it was as MAGA. It's a very new phenomenon. If we're looking at this phenomenon,
So let's ask the question then. Let's ask the question.
That is what reality is.
Yeah.
Then
So, Doc, can I be?
presuming-
Can
hold on,
Kieran
hold
be
on, hold on.
MAGA and
Hold
not
on,
agree with the
hold on,
terrorists?
hold on.
Yep, sorry.
Then Duck, everybody who voted for Trump, you consider to be MAGA, correct?
No, I had outlined this earlier, Sarah. So like I mentioned, there's single issue voters. There's people that might be libertarian that voted for Trump, and then there's MAGA folks. I'm sure someone has a list somewhere.
Can I just do
Alright.
another
This was my general distinction.
example here?
My patience.
I don't know what the relevance
Ladies
is.
and gentlemen, it is gone. It's 3 a.m. for me. I've been up since like 7, and I only had a couple hours of sleep from that one. So I don't have any patience. So I'm going to go ahead and shut down. Let's do our final thoughts. Please do not continue engaging. Just let final thoughts conclude, and then we will end the show and have a wonderful evening. Corinth, kick us off, please.
Okay. I mostly just want to respond to things Melanie said on her closer. When she's bringing up egalitarianism is what woke means, that's entirely untrue. When we talk about egalitarianism, there's a plethora of theories of egalitarianism. There's been an entire debate for the past 100 years in distributed justice, equality of what? There's cases of like equality of brute luck, equality of option luck, equality of resources, equality of opportunity, things like this. Just categorizing them all as egalitarianism is as lazy as trying to categorize egalitarianism as wokeness, like Melanie is trying to say. Broadly, woke right is just a stupid term. They're not identifying woke traits. They're identifying some like behaviors, but don't match the underlying theories. And if you want to see autistic debate analysis, I'm going to be doing a debate breakdown later this week with Adam Dole. Find me on Corinth at YouTube.
Thank you, Corinth. Cure to you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's a great panel. I don't really have any stuff to go look at. I guess you can go look at my Twitter if you want. It's just real_cure, I believe. And yeah, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Kieran. Appreciate you hopping on as well. Adam, go for it.
I am Adam Dahl. I've been starting doing debate reviews with Corinth over on his channel. We already did a debate review of the Andrew versus Apostate Prophet debate. You can check us out over there. Criticize us harshly in the comments. That's great. I appreciate Sarah for having me on. Woke right is a stupid term. Whatever the heck it is supposed to refer to. I've spent way too much time engaging with this stuff because I'm a big fan of Warren McIntyre, who has been referred to as a cultist of the Archangel Michael, who's trying to summon him into reality, and also a Theosophist and a Catholic by James Lindsay, because James Lindsay is crazy. All of this is utter nonsense when you actually look at the particular claims that Lindsay makes. But anyway, I'm sorry. Now I have a place I can send you to, and that's Corinth's channel, because me and him will be doing more debate analysis. Shout out to Rob. Shout out to Sarah. Shout out to the weed that Duck smoked before he came on, which caused him to become schizophrenic. Have a good night, everybody.
Thanks, Adam. Appreciate you. Learn some manners, though, Adam. Duck, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Thanks for having me on. It was fun hanging out backstage, fun in the Discord, fun in the chat. I just, MAGA since 2012 has been chasing childish impulses and calling this a platform. And I think, I don't have statistics and I don't need them. The worst aspects of the right in the United States are subjective. They're pussies. And they're still somehow imagining that whatever they see that they like, I like, is going to be a political platform. They don't even deserve to be called woke. It's hateful. If it's not understanding, it's hateful. And at the end of the day, we have so much opportunity, so many common things we can work together on. And it's just a shame that we don't have a Biden in the White House. We don't have a Harris. We don't have an Obama. And there's still an opportunity for bipartisanism and for common sense politics. The congressional level and municipal level. So let's get after that instead. Thanks.
Thank you, Doc. Appreciate you. And Rob, to you, actually, before you go, I want to add a little flair in for everyone. Rob will be joining in, I believe, the final Thursday of the month. I think, is that the 29th?
That's right. Yep.
Yeah, the 29th, Rob will be here, and Trump is the topic of his choice. If you check the prompt on the title, I don't remember what it is now, but that'll tell you.
It is something to the effect of, we should mock and laugh Democrat and media's criticisms of Trump.
That's right. That's right. So make sure you go find that live stream. It is already up and set up for the 29th, and hit the notification bell if you enjoyed having Rob on. This is your first time here.
Thanks.
And I've been trying to get you on for a while. I'm like so mad at your Monday schedules, but yeah.
Well, it's clearing up. So to give people a little note, I did home health care with adults with disabilities. And so you do what's called block shifts. So I'd go in at like Saturday at 2, and then I work straight through till Wednesday at 2.
Oh, wow.
I could stream because I'm off the clock there, but I don't have a computer. I just have my phone. So I don't like to do debate stuff. The other thing is, even if you're off the clock, a medical emergency springs up, I don't want to ruin someone's debate panel because they expect me. And so I never schedule anything on Mondays, but that's clearing up. I've switched careers. So in the next few weeks, I'll be fully transitioning. My pronouns will remain the same, but I will be transitioning to a full-time streamer. It was a lot of fun. I thought you did a great job moderating. Enjoyed the debate between Andrew and Misfit. It was actually more cordial than I expected, given their prior sort of interaction. So I thought clearly Andrew had the better of the debate, but it was still entertaining. Thank you so much for having me on the panel afterwards. I really enjoyed it. I like sort of the quirky characters and stuff. No hard feelings to anyone who's on here, including Duck and Mel. But yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I look forward to joining more often and definitely being here the last Thursday of the month. So thanks so much.
Perfect. Thank you, Rob. We appreciate you so much. And to everyone else, be sure.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But outside of that, ladies and gentlemen, keep an eye out. I have another Mod Monday popping up next week and the week after for Memorial Day. Shit's all over the place. The month is going to be busy. So outside of that, I'm going to bed. Now fuck off.
See ya.
A long time ago, in a YouTube world full of keyboard warriors, many monsters and trolls lurk in the chat rooms. They thrive on arguing.
All right. How do I do this? Boomer. Well, I'm up way too late, but it was fun. Yeah, Andrew absolutely crushed that debate. Thank you so much, with Ghost there for that last super chat. Says on the left for $20. Thanks. Says we have a dude who hides behind a fox thing. A grown man who's obviously way too obsessive with ducks. And on the right, we have normal blue collar men like Andrew and Rob. Man, which side should I pick? Yeah, interesting characters there on the left. They got like super aggro too. I was trying to be polite all night. And, they got super aggro. But yeah, Andrew absolutely dominated this debate. I think you could even tell just by the body language of Misfit Patriot that he was completely outclassed. It doesn't help that Andrew's a good debater and he happened to be on the right side on this issue. That always makes it more difficult when you're debating someone who's not only good at debate, but correct. So good performance by Andrew. As far as the after debate goes, I don't know what there is to say about folks. Radical Coder seemed to be more sensible of the lefties that were on there, but even he, you can see the problems fundamentally with their philosophy where it's like, oh, no, we believe in victimhood and systemic oppression. It's just every time we say it, it's true. And when you guys say it, it's not true. So, and then, I don't even know what to say about Duck and Mel there. Just the fundamental disagreement of things like what a paleoconservative believes versus a neocon. And then saying that I'm just not politically, I forget what the term they use, but politically astute or politically knowledgeable to know that neocons really like Trump and paleocons are leaving. I mean, you don't see my platform posted. How am I supposed to know what I believe? I know, it's crazy, right? Couple things before I leave. First off, please help me with my transition. I am transitioning and it will require money. It's going to be a difficult time. And as you all know, transitions could be expensive. So, donate to PayPal at Robert Knorr or through this new thing I got, Buy Me a Coffee at buymeacoffee.com, Rob Knorr. It sort of works like Patreon, except I keep more of the money. So if you're into that sort of thing, I'm fully transitioning. So, just something. I also started this banner, put this banner up when I'm talking to someone. This guy suck or what? I'm having fun with the banners. Having fun with that. Hey, with Ghost, thanks for another $10. Says Misfit really wants to be the next Andrew. He kept comparing himself to Andrew. I don't think he's got a chance. He doesn't, right? The problem is there's this a surface look at Andrew is he's just rude to people, but that's not what's going on, right? And so if you think well, I could emulate that. I could be rude to people and yell at people on debates. Yeah, it's not that simple. And so if your strategy is, I'm just gonna copy the mannerisms and the style, and then everything will fall into place. Good luck, So I think that he immediately regretted within 15 minutes of that debate, where he's admitting that the founding fathers meet his definition of woke. That's pretty devastating. That's before you even get to the debate proper. Hey, the definition that I'm going to accuse Nick Fuentes of being and the Groypers of being that I'm saying so bad that we need to destroy. By the way, the founding fathers also could be defined as that. Yes, I'm transitioning, it is true, to a full-time streamer. Whee! Sam Slenderman, thanks so much for being a member. Not Quite Dead, thank you so much. Says, thanks for the late show. It was entertaining. Yeah, I thought so. Trying to stream later because I know people are up then, but then I got to sleep in more. But then tomorrow I got stuff to do. So if you're new to the channel, I know there might be people from the Crucible that are here that are new. Please consider giving me a like and subscribe. I think you're going to see me doing some more stuff, both on Andrew's channel and behind the scenes with Andrew's channel. So tomorrow, I think Andrew will be talking to Pearl Davis. So maybe I'll check that debate out. I don't know when I'll be streaming tomorrow. We'll find a time that works, but I should be streaming at some point. So, all right. Thank you all so much. I appreciate you all. I'm going to get some sleep. I recommend you guys do the same. We'll talk to you all tomorrow evening, barring anything crazy. Just to let you know, in all seriousness, the next 2 weeks, my schedule is still a little iffy because I sort of had to put a 2 weeks notice in at work, and there's still some loose ends that I'm tying up there. Now, I should be free, but just letting you know that there's a possibility that things could come up. So thanks so much, everyone. We'll talk to you all soon. As always,